international repute. And ma'am has also acted as resource person in several international and national forum, and also participated in various workshops throughout the globe. So may I request ma'am to kindly interact with our participant on your topic. So I am handing over to ma'am, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pranav Bujaburwa, Bipul Bora, and Director, Madam. I'm so happy to be here again. This is my last fourth day program on basically on the motivation part of the story among children, how we can enhance their motivation, make them more proactive in doing something during this period of lockdown. Like as Madam says, that we all need her guidance and stress management techniques maybe during this time. So it is all very important for every teacher in this forum to know that children should be attentive and motivated to do something at this point of time. If you don't have the motivation, then nothing can sustain. And the projects also which we determine to do in life will fail. So during this time, the whole country, I mean to say India as well as the whole world is in crisis. And the children have lost their childhood. I always use this term, losing childhood, because the kind of issues that the children face is that they are highly in a stage now in the third wave. Risk of COVID-19 infection is very high among the children and adolescents population because they are not vaccinated. The anxiety and the fear among the parents is very high. And there's a disruption of normal routine, as we all know, and the motivation to do any kind of work is also lacking, not only in children, in among adults also. And people are all worried about their loved ones, and diminished excessive care and supervision is seen. Some parents are giving excessive care and protection towards their children, and some parents are neglecting their children. So, and some children are being orphans. Nowadays, I am doing grief therapy for the children who has lost their parents. সেইকাৰণে এই ষ্টেজটো এনেকুৱা এটা ষ্টেজ হৈ গৈছে যে আমি সকলোকে হেৰুৱাই পেলাইছো। মানে ফিজিকেল হেৰুৱাটো বেলেগ কথা, সাইকোলজিকেলিও আমি বহুত হেৰুৱাইছো। আমি নৰ্মেল ৰুটিন হেৰুৱাইছো, আমি প্লে মেথডছ হেৰুৱাইছো, আমি ফিজিকেল এনাৰ্জি যোনটো ল'ৰা ছোৱালীবিলাকৰ থাকে সেইটো ডিসচাৰ্জ কৰাটো আমি হেৰুৱাই দিছো। চ' এভৰিথিং ইজ লাইক ৰিভলভিং এৰাউণ্ড লছ। আৰু লছ যেতিয়াই থাকে তেতিয়াই এংজাইটি থাকিব, লছ যেতিয়াই থাকে তেতিয়াই ডিপ্ৰেশ্যন থাকিব। লছ ইজ অলৱেজ এছ'চিয়েটেড টু নেগেটিভ এলিমেণ্টছ ইন লাইফ। চ' উই নিড টু আণ্ডাৰষ্টেণ্ড that the mental health part of the story is very, very important. In order to know about the mental health part, we also have to know about what are the signs and symptoms of mental illness. আমি যদি কওঁ আমি stressed, যেনেকৈ বাইদেৱে ক'লে we are all stressed, but we don't know what are the signs and symptoms of stress. Stress basically is that when the demand from the environment is more than the potentials or the resources that we have to address the demand, it is known as stress. মানে আমাৰ যিমানখিনি কেপাচিটি আছে তাৰ ওপৰত যদি আমাক কাম দি দিয়া হয় তেতিয়াহ'লে এইটোক আমি ষ্ট্ৰেছ বুলি কওঁ। মানসিক এটা যন্ত্ৰণা যোনটো আমি কওঁ, মানসিক এইটো যোনটো আমি প্ৰেছাৰ বুলি কওঁ, টেনশ্যন বুলি কওঁ, এই বস্তুটো ইজিলি মানুহে ইউজ কৰে, that we are stressed, but we don't know what are the signs and symptoms of stress. কিছুমান ফিজিকেল চিমটমছ অফ ষ্ট্ৰেছ আছে, যেনেকৈ আমাৰ দেহাত কিছুমান চিমটমছ আহি যায়। কিছুমান আমাৰ কগনিটিভ ষ্ট্ৰেছ আছে যোনটো আমি ইণ্টাৰনেলি থাকে, আমাৰ কিছুমান ৰেষ্টলেছনেছ থাকে মনৰ ভিতৰত, আৰু আৱেগৰ ষ্ট্ৰেছ থাকে, মানে ইম'চনেল ষ্ট্ৰেছ থাকে, ইম'চনেল কম্পনেণ্টছ থাকে। সেইকাৰণে বহুত ধৰণৰ কথা আছে, এফেক্ট বিহেভিয়াৰ এণ্ড কগনিশ্যন। আৰু আমি দেখো আমাৰ বিহেভিয়াৰ ৱাইজ আমাৰ কিছুমান ষ্ট্ৰেছ চিমটমছ আমি দেখা যায়, যেনেকৈ প্ৰি স্কুলাৰ্ছবিলাকৰ থাম চাকিং, বেড ৱেটিং, ক্লিঙিং টু পেৰেণ্টছ, শ্লিপ ডিষ্টাৰ্বেঞ্চেছ, লছ অফ এপিটাইট, ফিয়াৰ অফ দ্য ডাৰ্ক, ৰিগ্ৰেশ্যন, মানে সৰু কালিলৈ গুচি যায়। 5 বছৰীয়া ল'ৰা এটাই যদি 2 বছৰৰ নিচিনাকৈ একশ্যন কৰে তেতিয়াহ'লে আমি কওঁ ৰিগ্ৰেছড। withdrawal, বেলেগৰ লগত নাথাকে, অকলে অকলে থাকে। So these are certain signs and symptoms of stress. In elementary schools, children, irritability, aggression, nightmare, poor concentration, avoidance to engage with friends, family, or in activities. These are also signs of stress. Adolescents or population of sleep and eating disturbance, agitation, tearful, social withdrawal, conflicts like physical complaints, loss of interest, poor concentration, and they have a lot of issues regarding relationships also. So if all these symptoms persist for more than 2 weeks, so the amar dukhopta dhori enuka dhৰণৰ signs and symptoms bilak thake, মানে continuously যদি আপোনালোকে ল'ৰা ছোৱালীবিলাকক দেখে, তেতিয়াহ'লে you have to go to a mental health professional and deal it as a clinical disorder, because you just can't leave it as a normal phenomenon. This is one manuscript which I have given to earlier sessions also. You need to go through this article. Here it is in detailed manner written about the impact of COVID-19.
Excuse me, madam. You have not projected today.
I have projected.
No. It is not. It is not shared.
Oh, really? I
Yes,
thought
yes.
it is being, because I have shown. I thought.
No, it's okay.
Just see?
Because it.
Can you see now?
No. Yeah, now it will come.
Because I had shared it.
Yeah. Now it is coming. Now it is coming. Yes.
Okay, so this is how I had said about the issues of children. These are the issues, and then these are the symptoms. Can you see them now?
Yes.
Okay, yes. So these are the stress symptoms and signs, and this is the article that I'm talking right now. So this is an article which impact of COVID-19 and lockdown and mental health of children and adolescents. It's a narrative review with recommendations. So there are a lot of recommendations given in this article. So you need to go through this article. I'm not going into the detail of the article, but you will get a lot of cues and a lot of intervention plans, how you need to collaborate psychosocial aspects also in your teaching methods, how they are related to each other maybe. And these are the different programs that people had done, like, thematic areas are school closures during COVID-19. So school closure and management practices, #1 article, what is the conclusion? So that is for academic and social psychological reasons, the policymakers needs to consider combination of social distancing measures, which are less disrupting if restrictive social distancing policies are needed for long periods. So they have given some kind of what kind of findings are seen in this kind of a research study, and what is a recommendation that is given. So in that way, there are different kind of recommendations given. This is one recommendation where playing is important, communication with minors are important, games, collaborative, while in the teaching methods, how you can bring along the physical activity part and the music therapy part, which is important, how teachers needs to be more, socially responsible in the mental health component of children. So, all these are written in this article. Maybe you have to go in detail. So again, there are this target group, that is the parents, pediatrician, teachers, mental health care workers, and there are different kind of recommendations for school-going children, children with special needs, underprivileged and vulnerable children. So quarantine parents and children. So what is happening? Because all these are different areas of work that we have to do, because everyone is not the same. Some children are from the vulnerable population, some children are socioeconomically deprived, some are marginalized for different reasons, some have special needs. So what are the different mental health issues across these children and adolescents is very important for us to know. So when we want to know about the teachers' roles, what are the teachers' roles? First is, we all have to take the role of educating about COVID-19, about how to prevent their health behavior by using the guidelines of the international organizations as well as national organizations according to the maturity level of the students. We can also conduct creative online sessions like interactive, engaging students in the form of quizzes, puzzles, small competitions, giving more creative home assignments to break the monotony of the online classes, and how we can promote mental health among students. We can also discuss about well-being in teaching simple exercises. Disturbance, I think, something is off. I can hear certain noises. If people can just mute their, mute, right. So people can assist in different kind of virtual workshops also that all of us are doing, some deep breathing exercises, muscle relaxation, and distraction methods in classroom atmosphere also. We also can, the importance of pro-social behavior can be taught to children, like how to empathize with others. Like children, আজিকালি কি হয় আমাৰ ল'ৰা ছোৱালীবিলাকক দেখা যায় সিহঁতে খুব selfish হৈ গৈছে, I think. People are becoming egocentric. They're only thinking about their own needs. এখানে individuation হৈ গৈছে। এখানে কেনেকে empathize কৰিব পাৰি, বেলেগৰ shoesত গৈ পেলাই কেনেকে কিছুমান কথা ভাবিব পাৰি। So সেনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ কিছুমান হয়তো বা we can give some workshops to the children to raise their patience, to raise their empathy, because these are certain social behaviors which are lacking in today's world, what I see while interacting with the students of this century. Interaction with parents is very important, how they can communicate more with parents, how that gap can be bridged. Hetu is very important, so that can also be inculcated by the teachers. And the identification and referral for special mental health issues, how we can identify early in life that these children will require help, maybe professional help, not only in academics but also in life skills. So we have to also inculcate the life skills education. So all the teachers should learn the different 10 life skills education. That is, I think nowadays in the schools we are taught this life skills. So why are people not motivated? Children are not motivated because they may suffer from physical, mental, and personal problems that affect their motivation. Behavioral indicators of these problems may be they're missing classes, they're arriving late in class, sleeping in the classroom, missing assignments, not responding to your emails, and a change in appearance and how they look. So these are the different behavioral indicators that they are stressed and they're not motivated to do anything in your class. So these students also influence the other children in the classroom. So that becomes very difficult for the teachers to address. So the strategies that we can use is mental health professionals লগত link কৰি দিব লাগিব, students লগত privately কথা পাতিব লাগিব. You need to ব্যক্তিগতভাৱে how you can tease these students out of the room and give time to them separately, involve the family members as children are having some problems maybe, and you have to give some importance and time to the students. And also we have to mitigate the students' influence on other people. If that child is very disruptive and he's creating a nuisance in the classroom and he's not actually deliberately causing problem, then definitely you have to give some other individual assignment to the student. Nowadays, the teacher's dilemma is that it is really, we have to be very honest that the teachers are not being able to transfer the classroom teaching online to the mainstream education and to engage and motivate the students in a screen, because it is very difficult to give attention on the screen for more than around 15 to 20 minutes. And we cannot actually ingrain stuff, and we cannot give attention in a screen for a lot of hours. So that itself becomes a fatigue kind of an issue. And that fatigue leads to boredom and frustration, and the students are demotivated in the screen all the time. So teachers' variables are that you need to show your passion and enthusiasm on the subject, and you have to be very powerful and contagious. You need to demonstrate that you like the subject and it is interesting, and you have to raise the students' curiosity for the subject. That is very important. You have to strive for fairness, transparency, and consistency in grading. বহুতে কিছুমান bias হয়, কিছুমান teachers, কিছুমান students-ক হয়তো বা অলপমান prefer কৰে, কেতিয়াবা হয়তো transparency lacking হয়, অলপমান বেছি marks দি দিয়া হয়, and that is not very transparent. So that also has a critical feedback from the students. So teachers' variables are very important. We used to also use student-centric language and concrete language so the students can understand your language. কেতিয়াবা কি হৈ যায়, আমি threatening দি দিওঁ, emotional বা scolding এনেকে গালি দিওঁ বা এনেকুৱা warning দি দিয়া যায় about penalties and stuff like that, that also makes them demotivated. So your tone of voice needs to be friendly, and you should suggest study strategies rather than, and offer help rather than penalizing them. Helping students set realistic expectation is important. You need to plan, and the research writing should be according to the students' interest, capacity, IQ, so many other stuff. So, and also sometimes it is very important to share your own personal stories. So as a researcher, or as a teacher, how frustrating your life has been. আপোনালোকৰ নিজৰ অভিজ্ঞতাবোৰ কেনেকুৱা আছিলে লাইফতো, আমি সকলোৱে বহুখিনি নেগেটিভ অভিজ্ঞতা পাৰ কৰি আহিছো, সেইখিনিও শ্বেয়াৰ কৰাটো is important, that how you have struggled in your life, how you have reached this status, and all your personal stories that would make them feel and strengthen that yes, every successful person, life is not easy for them. Everyone has to go through some negative elements in life. So reinforcement works. If all student work, regardless of quality, receives the same award or reward, there will be little incentive for students to excel. That is, the meaning is that reinforcement works, but it should be differential reinforcement. Children who are showing more effort should be reinforced in a different manner, and less effort also should be reinforced, but it should be in a different way. So there should be some kind of differentiation in the reinforcement process so that students can understand that, yes, I must have fared in this way, so I am getting an excellent reinforcement than the other person. So rewarding the characteristics of students' work, that what you want to see, is important. Like, for example, if you want the students to take risk, the students like a risk-taking behavior to outcome, then you should not focus on giving grades on the quality of the final product. You should give importance to the originality of the ideas that the students generate, and more on the number and the original ideas rather than the what is the outcome. So many a times, if you focus on the teamwork skills, or teamwork to enhance students or how build up a team and work together. Grading to on the collaborative approach, communication between themselves, addressing the conflict productively, নিজৰ conflicts like handle কৰিছে নে নাই, সেইখিনিৰ ওপৰত হয়তো আপোনালোকে marks বা grading দিব লাগিব, not on the result. So in that way, you have to ascertain what kind of reinforcement to whom you are going to give. Speaking. What is important in online education like webinar, you have to recognize that the public speaking is being, it's an opportunity for the students to learn how to speak in public among others, or in an audience of so many numbers, but in the screen. So maybe they can improve the skill from the virtual learning to the real learning. So you can pre-plan some communication techniques in how much time you can allow the students to speak and how to say it very quick, and you have to watch your own tone while doing that, reactions you get from others, and experiment with words which have greater impact. So your communication will also matter while taking the class. Respect your students, make them feel recognized and acknowledged as individuals, learn their names and provide information and opportunities for them to learn each other's names. Naam bilak hokolore janato khub usit students khini, our students khini hoda address korunte telokor naam loi pelai, respect di pelai, that also really motivates the students to come to the classroom. You can ask about their academic and other interests, and you can also invite them to chat with you during other hours. Junkhini lorasulik okonman ulta alopman dusto prakarar hoy ba okonman, they are not coming to the classroom, missing assignments. Teolokor jihetu problem ase, teolokok jan eta individual special attention diye outside of the classroom, so that they feel needed and they feel heard. That is important, that you can do to enhance the motivation. Students variables hoise ki kisman students ko attention or problem, that is known as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Eto eta bemar. Ei lorasalibu khub chonchol hoy, hihotor kane online education is really a tough thing to do, because they can't sit at a particular place and look at the screen and listen and grasp things. Ekane hey lorasalikhini identify kori pele ami ketiba medicines or kotha bhabu. Is it that these children are restless cognitively, they are hyperactive, they are inattentive, concentration is lacking, not only in the online but otherwise also in life? Then maybe you can tap them and link them to mental health professionals. Kisman students' styles of learning are very auditory processing, visual processing, sokure dekhi pelai hike, kismane huni pelai hike. Hekane in that way also motivation varies, and some children are intrinsically motivated. Mane bhitorer prai hihotor kiba korar ichha ase, সিহঁতক ৰিৱাৰ্ডছ নালাগে, সিহঁতক কৈ দিলেই সিহঁতি কৰি দিব কামখিনি. কিছুমান ল'ৰা ছোৱালীক আকৌ এক্সট্ৰেনচিক ৰিৱাৰ্ড লাগে. ইফ ইউ ডোণ্ট গিভ আ লট অফ ফিডবেক টু দেম, দে উইল নট বি মোটিভেটেড. So you need to understand the styles of the students, what kind of styles or what kind of approaches is going to enhance their performance. Some children are outcome oriented, some children are process oriented, some children like to have a lot of knowledge, some children just needs marks in their hands. So result oriented niki, hey lorasali bilakor ako exams nohole birat problem hoi jay. So some students have multiple goals. They have academic goals, they have pre-professional goals, they have social goals, making friends, having romantic partner, having fun, activities, exercise. They need to do everything. So then also you have to prioritize as teachers, like how and what can be the balanced kind of an approach. A student will not be motivated if they see little value in the course or the content. If they feel that the course is not valuable for them, it's not going to really give them any result in the future, and then they will be not investing time and effort on the things that you're asking them to do. সেইকাৰণে এক্সপেক্টেঞ্চি আৰু ভেলিউ থিয়ৰী ইজ ভেৰি ইম্পৰ্টেণ্ট। যদি সিহঁতে বিলিভ কৰে যে এইখিনি কাম কৰিলে আমি কিবা এটা লাইফত একামপ্লিছ কৰিব পাৰিম, আমি কিবা কথাত ছাকচেছফুল হ'ম এণ্ড ইট ইজ গোইং টু ৰিয়েলি বি ৱৰ্থ ৱাইল ফৰ মাই লাইফ, তেতিয়াহ'লে সিহঁতৰ মটিভেশ্যন will definitely be there. So we need to see what kind of students prefers what kind of job scenario. কিছুমান students ভাবে যে learning is generally fast and easy. সেইকাৰণে লাৰ্ণিং ইজ জেনেটিক, আমি মানে জন্মতে লাৰ্ণ কৰিব লাগে, ফাষ্ট লাৰ্ণ কৰিব লাগে, এণ্ড শ্ল' এণ্ড আৰ্ডুৱাছ হৈ লাভ নাই। চ' দে মে লুজ মটিভেশ্যন when they encounter challenges. সেইকাৰণে যদি কিবা চেলেঞ্জিং চিটুৱেশ্যন দি দিয়া হয় বা প্ৰজেক্ট দি দিয়া হয়, they feel that I am not being able to do it. That means মই নোৱাৰিম কৰিবলৈ। And they also feel that intelligence is a fixed quantity, something you do or do not have, but not something you acquire over time. কিছুমান students believe কৰে I can't become intelligent. I have to be intelligent from the day one or I'm not intelligent. They lose the point of even that extra effort. Intelligent they don't even give that kind of an effort. So sometimes this innate talents rather than effort, important that effort really pays in the long run. So a lot of students are demotivated because of this kind of an approach. So sometimes we also need to understand how we can reflect the study strategies in the students. Some students they reflect upon themselves. আকৌ যেতিয়া এটা আউটকাম হৈ যায়, ৰিজাল্ট পাই যায়, তেতিয়া তেওঁলোকে they think about how they had prepared, what skills did they encounter, how did they prepare differently, how much advance they had actually prepared for their lessons. Ebla ko reply, they understand that this was wrong and this was right. So it is always important for the teachers to enhance that reflection in the students, how they can reflect upon their own behavior. Siহঁতে কেনেকৈ নিজকে assess কৰিব লাগে, এইটোক আমি কওঁ self assessment, যে মই কেনেকৈনো পঢ়িলো, মই কিমানখিনিনো টাইম দিলো, মই কিমানখিনি মই এফৰ্ট মেক কৰিছো in this project or in my work, then that will determine whether I will be sustaining and I'll be successful in life. So these kind of self reflection by introspection, that is very important for the teachers to build in students' mind. Classroom or course variables are important. You need to have some ground rules for classroom interaction, because some students, they behave very they bully the students badly. So many a times I have encountered a lot of children. I've given this example to all the sessions, is that lately in the last year, I have encountered 3 suicide cases where adolescents of 19 to 21 years, who some of them are very close to my, I know them in social circle, they had committed suicide at the age of 19 to 21 years. The other day also somebody had committed suicide in Guwahati. So these are children very much bullied by their friends. Mane iman jukai hiatok iman bully kore je hiate he scar to gute jibon loi jay. 20-21 years is a very vulnerable time. Hekhini hormonal changes hoy, itu hoy. Hekane as teachers, it is your primary duty to see that children are not actually bullying each other, not belittling each other, not showing any kind of languages which is really hurtful for the other children. So there should be civil and productive exchange of ideas. Or hekhini jodi na thake, tekheo children are not motivated to come to classroom. So learning speed to junto ami ko, that we have to break down the information into small pieces, which we all know that they have short-term memory para long-term memory le jabo. So how to chunk, how to organize information into the subjects that has to be taught to students if they do not know, and how to practice problem-solving strategies over and over again, and to also show them to overcome the procrastination behavior. Put down an execution plan with deadlines in the calendar. So it is important to give deadlines to time frame which is reachable and doable. Hekinizan students reach koribo pare, because unpredictability is not liked by the students. Etia juntu life ot hoy ase, everything is unpredictable. So when everything is unpredictable, students are becoming very anxious. Or due date nai, ketia ki hobo nai, students do not know in advance what's going to happen, whether they will have exams or not. is an unpredictable situation where I said that is the main issue for the children to become demotivated in studies and doing any kind of project. So the environment has to be supportive. They should feel needed. They should be included. And if they're not supportive, then definitely the motivation will erode. So we have to understand that there are 5 things which are important as SMART project. That is, we have to be very specific as teachers what to give them the instruction. It should not be vague, measurable hobo lage, achievable hobo lage, relevant hobo lage, and that should be time bound. So these are the 5 things that we have to keep in mind to enhance students' motivation. So what is important to take back is that we have to clearly articulate the learning goals to the students, show relevance to students' academic lives, professional lives, how it can be used in a real world setting, to also connect to students' personal interest, allow students some degree of choice, and also facilitate their individual abilities, and have small groups in online classrooms so that more interactions is there and you show more passion and enthusiasm. So about the COVID-19 stress among students, you need to give very brief and simple information. As Madam had said, what we need to do for the students to overcome stress. What is important for early elementary school children is that you should give facts with appropriate reassurance that adults are there to help you to remain healthy and to take care of them, so that you do not feel or fall sick. A2 reassurance or positive reinforcement to very important from the teachers. Elementary and early middle school they are more vocal and more verbal. So they are very curious about facts and figures. So provide the basic facts, and research is still going on about the facts and figures of COVID-19. So we cannot conclude at this point of time. New things are generating again and again. So maybe whatever you find right now, you can give them the knowledge. And they may also need assistance in separating reality from rumor and fantasy. Do not magnify issues and make them fearful. And you also need to discuss with the community leaders how to prevent different kind of germs and fears among the students that is percolating. Upper, middle, and high school students, issues can be discussed in more depth. Elaborate discussions with consensus is required. Many a times you can start with COVID mane aur tumalake ki buja. But COVID boli hobdo to kunile ki monole ahe. What comes to your mind when you listen to this word called COVID? Enuka type of apnalake discussion kiswan koribo pare. Tetiao gom pabo je students are stressed or not stressed, or hotor informations bilak ki ase. So that you can give very honest, accurate, and factual information, and plan the decision making about family plans, scheduling, helping with chores, and delegating responsibilities with their feedback. So activities in a nutshell, what you can ask them to do is definitely meditation. Meditation from the external world to the internal thought process, calming down. Journaling likhibo pare about what is happening right now, so that after 10 years or after 5 years, when they go through their journal, they come to know what they have passed through in life. Human memory is very short. We are overwhelmed with emotions, but after 1 year we'll forget everything. So it is always important to write down the small events, like even the webinars that you're conducting right now, the kind of digital platform. These are some important transitions in life. So what we have done and how we have overcome, because we are living in history right now. Exercise, like a brief walk, family time is important. Reading is important, definitely. Drawing, painting, storytelling. Storytelling is one thing that I always propose among family and friends, so that we can construct story. Family to eta line kole kunuba eta line kole. So in the construction of story also, you will come to know who is feeling what. Movies to ase, games ase, different kind of games, online socializing ase, media platform, gardening, cooking, baking, household chores ase, volunteering in different kind of work. At this point of time, I'm kisman online kisman messages dibo paro. Apnaloke students bilakok projector honkrantote hok jihote hok, you can ask them to make some WhatsApp videos, modules. Jiji hike 2 minutes, 3 minutes apnaloke kobo pare. Just make some videos and share with us. Platform media so that children will be encouraged about what they are learning and what they are gaining, and their work is being projected in the media. So in that way also, you can encourage students and raise their motivations about assignments that they are neglecting. Maybe this is the last slide which I give a lot of importance, is that all of us, even the students as well as the teachers, me time at rakha bhal. Time where we can ourselves introspect to understand ourselves better, ponder about the kind of person we want to be and how we can grow to be that person in this lockdown. Etia ekhini samoye amar ase where we can reflect and think who we are grateful to as well as apologize to, so that we can work towards strengthening relationships with the people in our lives. You know, relationships matters. Our happiness index, what I mean, relationship is the first variable which makes us happy in life. So perhaps we can also think about what we would like to do that we have never done before now that we have time. For instance, maybe start writing a book, learn some dance steps, learn a new language. A new language, মই এইটো example সদায় দি আছো কিয়নো এইটো মোৰ personal example হৈ গৈছে এতিয়া। মই মনন কৰি আছিলো, আমি মনন বোলা এটা লৈছিলো এটা অভিযান টাইপৰ নেশ্যনেল হেল্থ মিছনৰ আণ্ডাৰত আমাক গভৰ্ণমেণ্ট অফ ইণ্ডিয়াই লিড ল'বলৈ দিছিলে টু ডু কাউন্সেলিং টু দ্য COVID-19 পেচেণ্টছ। চ' মোৰ আণ্ডাৰত আমি ট্ৰেইন কৰিছিলো 406 কাউন্সেলাৰ্ছ আহি গৈছিলে, আমি ট্ৰেইনিং দিছিলো, ট্ৰেইনিং দি পেলাই আমি COVID-19 পেচেণ্টছক আমি সিহঁতক কাউন্সেলিং কৰি আছিলো, এতিয়াও কৰি আছো, বাট ভলেণ্টাৰী কাউন্সেলাৰ্ছ বিলাকৰ দ্বাৰা নহয়, এতিয়া নেশ্যনেল হেল্থ মিছনৰ কাউন্সেলাৰ্ছ হয়, এইটো মনন বুলি আছিলে প্ৰজেক্টটো। আমি আমাৰ আণ্ডাৰত 6 মান্থছত 44,700 COVID-19 পেচেণ্টছক ইণ্ডিভিজুৱেলি ফোন কৰি আমি কাউন্সেলিং কৰিছিলো। It's a big project, and even WHO, World Health Organization, had written to me. They took a Zoom interview for me, and they want to publish in the WHO Health magazine about our effort. এই এফৰ্টটো যেতিয়া কৰি আছিলো তেতিয়া বহু বিভিন্ন মানুহক মই লগ কৰিছিলো, ইণ্টাৰভিউ লৈছিলো, I took interview, and in this whole interview process I had interviewed Dr. Amarjyoti Chaudhary. So Amarjyoti Chaudhary sarok sabe kom pai, so I'm not going to introduce him. So I had gone and wanted to take an interview about our Monon initiative. So I went to ask him, and he said, please come at 6 o'clock. Then not at 5 o'clock because I am doing a class. তেতিয়া মই যেতিয়া 6টা বজাত গৈছো মই ছাৰক সুধিলো, ছাৰ কওকচোন আপুনি যে 5টা বজাত কি ক্লাছ কৰি আছিলে, আপুনি কাবাক শিকাই আছিলে নেকি? Then he said, no, মই শিকা নাই, মই নিজে ষ্টুডেণ্ট হৈ আছিলো, I'm learning Spanish. The Spanish কৈছে মই পৰীক্ষা দিব লাগিব, মই ক্লাছ লৈ আছো, বিকজ মোৰ পয়েমছ বিলাক, স্পেনিছ পয়েম বিলাক, স্পেইনৰ স্পেনিছ পয়েম বিলাক স্পেনিছ ভাষাত মোৰ জানিব মন, বিকজ এতিয়ালৈকে মই ইংলিছত ট্ৰান্সলেট কৰি বুজি আছিলো, কিন্তু স্পেনিছত মোৰ টাইমে নাছিলে। এতিয়া at the age of 70s or whatever, he is learning Spanish language. So this is how we need to keep our motivation as teachers as well as students. So we need to understand, how we can actually escape from this bored, situation in life, develop some new interest. However, we also have to be aware of how to spend our time in the leisure activities as well, and not neglect our responsibilities as a student and as a teacher. Take home messages. This is very temporary phase, not long lasting at all. So we need to not, magnify it. Work responsibly with collaboration, with a team effort, definite priority for physical safety, and second priority is restoring the normalcy and quality in daily routine. These are my references. Today, maybe I'll share this and send it to the person concerned, the organizers. This is the best manual that we had actually published for COVID-19 patients. This was the first one for telepsychology from Assam, and this is approved by the government of India. We had written this for doing individual counseling. This is there in the net. People can go through it, even the teachers, how to do counseling during this stage of COVID-19. Thank you so much, and for this platform that is provided to me. And I'm really, really privileged and proud. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, ma'am. Really, it is very illuminating talk. I think all the participants are benefited with your talk over these 4 sessions. You have spared valuable time. So may I quickly go to one round of any question or any doubts if participants wants to clarify from Madam. Madam is here. So if you have any question, please kindly put your question so that Madam can answer those queries. Yeah. Anyone, please. Any participant, and Madam will definitely share this her presentation with NCSC. Engineer Sandeep Bhatta will circulate it. So if you have any doubts or any queries, you can just clarify.
আপোনালোকৰ কিবা জানিবলগীয়া বা কিবা যদি ডাউট আছে, আমাৰ ডক্টৰ হাজৰিকা আছে, তেখেতে হয়তো কিছু সময়ৰ পিছত নাথাকিব আমাৰ লগত, গতিকে আপোনালোকে সুধিব পাৰে।
I think nobody has any question. Anyway, ma'am,
No, I have.
Thank you.
yes, please.
Amen. It was so nice
Yeah,
listening
madam,
to.
yeah, director,
Can you
ma'am.
hear me? Huh. It's
Ye-
really nice. I got the chance to listen to you, and thank you so much. So now I have what the last part. Okay, let me. You were talking about the teachers, how they will handle stress. You
Mhm.
know how they'll cope with stress, how to, I mean, deal with the students and all. So
Yes.
I take it myself as a teacher. I don't teach in school, but I'm a mother. Okay, so
Mhm.
I have a young daughters,
Mhm.
which some due to this COVID situation, they are not attending schools, and we have to give them cell phones. We have to provide them with laptops for their online classes. So three children, everybody has to be given separately because they have classes at a separate time. But these type of giving them all these electronic gadgets, which is, they are totally, it's under their control.
Mhm.
Like, and the parents are not there, they
Mhm.
are glued to their mobile phones, and somehow I feel the children are addicted and they have stopped communicating. They prefer staying indoors in their room instead of talking to us. Like a mother like me who reach home late at night, say, then after coming home you hardly have time for the children, then you see them glued to their mobile phones, then it immediately you get, you feel so angry.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
when the children are also agitated because your mother's first is, oh, I miss you, I love you, that word does not come out. First thing you see them with, they're holding their mobile phone glued, they're least bothered who's coming and going. Makes you very irritated and you lose your temper. This is what I am facing. And the children also, they feel that, oh, mommy is always angry. So this sort of thing is now coming up, it's so
Yes, yes,
difficult.
yes,
Then
yes.
how to handle this, and teenage girls, very difficult at this stage.
Mhm.
And then the second part, you talk about me time. This is so important. We don't have me time anymore, no? And
Mhm.
how to handle this thing. Even I feel fully stressed out now. Some
Mhm.
advice from you.
True. Yeah, I agree. I mean to say about the first part of your question is that is being faced by all of us. We are all parents here, but the only issue remains is that how to balance. It is about balancing things.
Right, you're
So
right.
maybe it is very important for you to communicate your concerns with your children. You need to discuss with them that
Yeah.
you are actually not irritated with their them, but you are a little bit not approving their behavior of all the time in the screen, because one thing is about being for the course in the screen, that is mandatory, they have to be, you can't object to that, because that is the only medium of instruction at this point of time. But at other times when there is no class, stuff like that, how you need to ask them, like, do you think that you have to be all the time, the whole day? What did you do? Did you reflect upon your behavior today? Like, definitely, how much ever busy you are, half an hour to 45 minutes with your children are very important daily. So what is happening to them, maybe to understand, like, how did you pass your time today? Did you reflect upon your behavior? Then just subtly you have to say that, do you realize that you're spending a lot of time in the mobile phone? Then they may say, no, we are not, we are not in the mobile phone all the time. Then you may have to ask them that which are those times where you were not in the mobile phone or where you are not in the laptop. Can you just tell me which are those times? Because I was in the office, I don't know. because you have to ask them. You can't just go and be irritated with them because you don't know their whole routine. If they say, yes, we are from this time to that time, we were not in the mobile phone, then maybe you have to say good, very good and all. But when I come back home, I would require, it would be and it would be nice of you if you can spend some time with me apart from the screen time, because I'm hardly at home. I'm a very busy person, as you know, I'm an official. So when I'm back home, I need some time with you with no gadgets. So maybe you also have to keep your gadgets away during that time. 45 minutes to 1 hour time, all of you need to switch off your mobile phone and be with each other. That is important to draw some kind of boundary and some kind of ground rules for your family. So you need to go very slow, all right? So go very slow, talk to them first, build up a rapport, and tell them that you're irritable, not with them. Maybe your busy schedule, your stress, and many things are making you very angry. You're not always angry with them. But definitely their approach and their behavior with the screen is reinforcing your irritation. It is not that you're irritable with them. You're already irritated because of the stress in the work front. And when you come home, you see that it reinforces. So how they can actually reduce your anxiety and your stress. Ask them to help you because you need help. You ask them and say that I need help from you people. So maybe then they will understand your distress. And if anything else that you want, you can personally contact me, madam. And I can give you some strategies how to deal with teenage daughters and teenage people. Because this is one stage which is very, very difficult to handle. Because they are neither adults nor children, and they are in the transition. So they feel that they are independent as well as they are dependent because they are living on our money and they are dependent on us, unlike developed countries. So these are certain, subtle things that you have to understand. About me time, I would suggest that you have to, in the work front, in the workplace itself, you need to take around 15 to 20 minutes total block and do some meditation. You can do in your work atmosphere also, in the room that you are. There are different kind of deep breathing exercises, mindfulness-based stress reduction. You can download that app, WhatsApp. There is an app called Mindfulness Meditation. You just download that and strictly you just lock your room and say that 20 minutes I need to myself. Switch off everything and do mindfulness. That really works in the work atmosphere. And switch off your mind. Just switch it off. And say that I'll not be here now. I'll be in my own world if you're too busy at work. So something like that, me time. Reflection for every day, 10 minutes you take out time and write down the points which you did not like that day, so that your thing is catharsis ho gaya. You can just be outlet, your whole negativity is out in the book, something like that. So there are a lot of strategies. I think I gave you some tips, and anything else, definitely I would love to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I hope
Hello,
it helped.
Very good
Hello.
suggestion.
May I ask you something, ma'am?
Yes, tell me, Igwan.
Yes, ma'am. I'm from Chalna, Madhya Pradesh district, and I'm a teacher, and I have a son who is 5 years old.
Okay.
And as usual, during this time of the COVID, he is always in home. I try my level best to give him time. His father is with him always. We try to give a lot of time, but as usual, he has not got any friends, and even though he has friends, we are not allowing him to go out. So there are so many problems. He becomes irritated very quickly, and as you said, we have to speak to them very softly in a soft tone, and we cannot be rude with them at any point of time. But sometimes, what I found at some point of time when you become a bit rude or angry, maybe it seems that things become manageable at some point of time. Now, is it okay that sometimes we can be a bit rude with this?
Yeah, we are all normal. We are all people who have normal emotions, right? But what is important to understand is sometimes if you break down, you definitely have to go back and say apologize and say sorry for your behavior. That is important. All the time you cannot be in control. But as much as possible, try to resolve your own conflicts. If you have anger, if you have stress issues, it is better that you heal yourself, show somebody, do something for yourself, and then maybe you will be in a better position to deal with certain situations. But still, if you break down, maybe you can go back to him or her and say that daddy sometimes, behaves like this because daddy was stressed out, but daddy is not always like that. Daddy was not very angry with you, so you need not feel that I was like being rude to you. Maybe I was rude to your behavior and I was not approving the behavior, not you. I accept you the way you are. So the difference between the person and the behavior needs to be spoken to the child. And apologizing is one way of reaching out to them. They should feel that, yes, adults apologize. We also feel that we can we can make errors in life. We are not omniscient and omnipotent or, all perfect in life, right? So that you need to make them understand. Yeah.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you so much. Thank you, madam, once again. So if any participants want to contact with ma'am, you can definitely contact with email or phone, your ma'am's
Yeah,
phone number.
my email is hazarika.maithili@gmail.com. HAZARIKA, hazarika.maithili, MYTHILI @gmail.com, where you can write to me, then maybe I'll be able to help you out if you have any queries.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thanks.
Now we are moving towards the fourth sub-theme, that is design, development, and modeling for sustainable living. So for this fourth sub-theme, we have three resource persons amongst us: Professor Bhim Prasad Sharma, Department of Mathematics, Tezpur University; Professor Surajit Borkotoki, Department of Mathematics, Dibrugarh University; and Dr. Bipul Kumar Sharma from Department of Chemistry, Tezpur University. So may I request all the resource persons to kindly present their topic. Thank you.
So thank you very much. I am Bhim Prasad Sharma, and along with me, there will be two colleagues who will be speaking on the fourth sub-theme, this design, development, and modeling. So let me share my thing.
Share হোৱা নাই।
Share হোৱা নাই, share হোৱা নাই।
নাই হোৱা sir, share।
মানে share কৰিব পৰা নাই, এইটো যোৱা নাই দেন। বহুত বেলেগ আছে নেকি? ৰ'ব দেই। This sharing option is not clicking up.
আমাৰ হেৰি স্যাৰ শ্বেয়াৰ কৰি দিব নেকি আমাৰ ভট্টাচাৰ্য স্যাৰ?
ঠিক সেই লেটেষ্ট এটা আছিলে, মই লেটেষ্টটো ঠিক কৰিব। আচ্ছা, গতিকে just let me check.
Okay. Yes, sir. It is sharing, sir, now. দেখিছো, sir.
Sir, audio is off.
Yeah. শৰ্মা sir মিউট হৈ আছে নেকি?
হয়, এতিয়া শুনা পাইছে?
Yes, পাইছো sir, পাইছো।
আহিছে না? আচ্ছা, ঠিক আছে। Okay. নাই ঘূৰি গৈছে, মই চাই আছো ৰ'ব। প্ৰব্লেম কৰি আছে কোনো। So is it coming? আহিছে এতিয়া। So okay, Yes, okay. We'll be talking very briefly on what is design, development, planning, and modeling. So, which was already briefed by Jayanta Kumar Sharma. Tothapi moi kinta comment kom. Design is basically picturize. We normally mentally picturize a concept or utility or event, which we slowly develop and make a model, and after that we work on this model for its functionalities later on. So these are certain stages of giving out a new product or new design, anything. So the development is again further further magnification or further better visualization of the mental picture. So basically what we do is here we take help of quantification. So whatever we have thought, conceptualized in the stage of the design, that is largely qualitative, and here we normally we try to make the quantification. So that is development, design development, and in between, of course, there are certain constraints which we need to take consideration. So like environmental or socioeconomic certain norms, all those things we need to incorporate into our thinkings and the developed model, developed design, and then we normally call it modeling. So in the modeling, what happens, we try to express everything. Earlier we quantified and we got certain mathematical quantities. Now what we would like to do, we would like to incorporate the dynamics of those mathematical quantities. How will they work? For that we need certain equations. So mostly the modelings will be expressed in terms of certain equations, inequalities, some kind of relations. So we normally call it mathematical modeling. Apart from that, we have also physical modeling too. So that is again on the conceptualization, but largely we'll be talking about by modeling, we'll try to talk about the mathematical modeling here. So why do we need those kind of modelings? So because we cannot straight away construct anything or put money on it. So what we do is make a model out of it, and by changing those mathematical quantities or what we call different factors or parameters, we just increase or decrease to look into their sensitivities, and that way we try to get the cost benefit analysis, and which will help us in decision making process, and what are the different effects that might arise from these things in the existing planning. So if my planning needs to be revised, then this is at this planning stage where this mathematical modeling will help us. So at the students, this is the general concept, but at the student level, so they will think of very small things which they need to conceptualize qualitatively, and quantification of this is required, and slowly they will proceed. So I will try to pick up one or two problems, model projects, where I will try to demonstrate these various stages. The first is the idea is estimating the interior unsafe condition of the households. We do many projects. Normally, students are encouraged to look into certain difficulties or inconveniences all around them and try to understand them. And if there is any solution, and the students are encouraged to make a solution or think along the line of the solution. So here, supposing that the problem is various unsafe conditions that might be prevailing in our household, within the house, then why do you need it? So basically what happens whenever disaster comes, then these are the unsafe conditions which really cause a lot of difficulties to us, and making this disaster more aggressive, and which we'd like to face its consequence. So we need to understand the unsafe condition. So in order to consolidate these ideas, I'd like to focus on few photographs. Okay, so say for unsafe, so let us try to see. So one photograph is this. It's a very nice office room, so where everything is nicely decorated, but the main thing is the table made out of glass. Table is made out of the glass. So in terms of our earthquakes, how safe it is, we need to think. So whether it is safe, good, or aesthetically good, but from the viewpoint of this disaster or the earthquake, so this is an unsafe condition. Similarly, this kind of table, decorative table, we consider, and we see that these are actually unsafe things at times. And like electrical connections, so many of us have this kind of habits, which is actually, we would like to term them as unsafe conditions. And similarly, the surroundings we make unsafe. So we have been calling it unsafe, but then what is a safe? So that also we need to understand, because we need to quantify things. So this unsafe versus, this is a table. It is not as decorative, but then at times whenever earthquake comes, there's a scope that one person can go inside the table and save himself. Similarly, these are very strong tables which might help us during disastrous situations. So this electrical connections, if we these are safely made, then probably we can avert many disastrous situations within the household. And this plastics and the polythenes, so if we properly dump in a proper way, maybe these will be useful for recycling purpose. And this is another recycling case which is in Assam itself. So with the plastics, the lady is trying to weave. So safe or comparatively safer, or these are all safe, unsafe things are comparative or subjective. So we need to quantify it. So how do you do it? So it needs precise description of the physical and behavioral aspect of our loopholes, shortcomings, or weaknesses for a safe and sustainable living conditions. Or more objectively, what we'd like to say is the enumeration of the unsafe conditions. So how unsafe? We need to grade them. So this is just now the design part. This is the initial introduction to the problem. Now how do I design? So this unsafe condition is largely called the vulnerability. So the prevailing unsafe conditions or defects, shortcomings, etc., will say vulnerability, and mostly defects and unsafe conditions to be enumerated with numerical figures. So how should we do it? And first I have to identify various weak points and then try to enumerate them. This is where. So in this connection, we need to understand the disaster, for which there is one term called hazard. So hazard is the actual physical trigger which causes the disaster. So in this case, this is the earthquake, or in many cases, it could be flood, fire, epidemics is also a hazard. So what is the characteristic of a hazard? This is no regulation or extremely difficult to be regulated by external agencies. So this is the nature of the hazard, and there are examples we have already said: earthquake, the flood, fire, epidemic, etc. These are some of the examples. And just as vulnerability, we can also enumerate the hazard in terms of its grades. Just as in earthquake, so we have our scale called Richter scale. So in terms of Richter scale, we quantify the strength of the earthquake. So these are enumerated. Then there are various sources of hazard. And what is disaster? So this is the relationship we need to understand: this vulnerability, hazard, and risk. So basically, by disaster, the actual effect, the effect is the loss of life or property in a large scale, impacts a normal living condition, and leaves after effect called trauma, and combined effect of hazard and vulnerability. So there is a relationship between a hazard and hazard. Hazard is the cause, and the vulnerability is the unsafe conditions which help the hazard to do a lot of loss and a lot of impact. So it makes the way for giving the impact to the vulnerable community. And their interrelation needs to be looked into. So properly, we need to see the development part, quantification. Then we see the literature, and then we find that this is connected by a multiplicative relation. So if we quantify hazard and vulnerability, so why it is multiplication? Because we know that if there is no hazard, then hazard is equal to 0, and whatever vulnerability exists in the area, so there cannot be any disaster because there is no hazard. Or even hazard is non-zero, but then vulnerability is 0. So in that case also we don't get disaster. So in ideal conditions, we don't get zero vulnerability condition. So we need to understand. So for our present study, this is the introduction part. And then for our present study, what we'll do the modeling of the things. So it is the earthquake we will consider with special reference to, and so vulnerability area is house interior or the single compound. So what are the sources of vulnerability? We'll try to identify the electrical, the appliances, the supply mains, wirings. So whether it is going over the tree or houses, or the internal wiring, switch and control, the reachability by the babies, and many times the animals also, pet animals and all, and the exposure. So how it is kept, whether it is kept open or it is covered also. Similarly, chemical sources, the stocking place, coverings, handlings, we need to look into it. And then physical or mechanical, very sharp and pointed objects are also there, like glass materials also. These are some, and their locations and exposures, they will have to consider. Similarly, fire sources, the prayer area is a very vulnerable area. In many cases, there are a lot of reports. So the fire set from the prayer area where there are some incense sticks or some diya, which gives fire to the nearby curtain, and then from which the entire disaster happens. And then the arrangement related things are also there. So what is your available space, and particularly during the earthquake, so what is the passage? So if your passage is just zigzag, then you will take a lot of time, you will take a sufficient amount of time to get out of the house. So what is the passage structure, that also need to be looked upon. And similarly, babies, aged persons, animal confinements, all those things, these are various vulnerabilities. So here, what students will, the modeling part will, what they will do is they will select an area and some sample household, and they will explore some possible sources of vulnerability, and then assign the values. So this is quite crucial for them. So this is needed for grading. So they will have to give a lot of thought over it, and for a very simple calculations for them, for at the students level, those individual vulnerability points with respect to various sources, they will be finally added up to get the overall vulnerability of the household. So they need to have a questionnaire or the direct physical visit to the house, whatever is possible. Please remember for the students that in this COVID situations, maybe questionnaire will be better, or it will be better. If the situation permits, then it is always good to talk to the individual houses and personally see the things and note down the vulnerable points. But at this situations, maybe questionnaire will be better things. So prepare the questionnaire in such a way that the vulnerabilities get properly answered by the respondents. And then suppose we'll make tables like this, electrical vulnerability. So with respect to appliances, maybe water pump, freezer, geyser, heater, electric oven, electric fan, and tube light. And these are various parameters that we need to understand, like quantity, what is their wattage, what is the age of the appliance, or what is the usage hour, where it is kept, and what is the exposure level, whether it is open or the covered. Similarly, in the case of wirings also, we can make similar tables. And for chemical vulnerability also, we'll consider various substances like copper sulfate, bleaching powder. Copper sulfate is normally used in the households to as a treatment to the animals, the scars or some kind of these cut points. So there many people use this copper sulfate. And bleaching powder, normally this common name Gamaxine, these are also kept many times kept open. The pesticides are also used. The kerosene, the oils are also not only chemical, there are oils too. I mean, kerosene, diesel, how things are kept, or the animal medicine, many times these are not to be not supposed to be consumed. But if your placings or exposure is there, maybe some other it may find some other wrong uses. So next comes the grading part. So this is what is, suppose for the electrical, the what is, suppose the students judiciously thinks on the problem and they make gradations in this fashion. Suppose below 100, suppose vulnerability below 1, 100 to 500, 2, 500 to maybe 1 kilowatt, 3, and so on. Similarly for the exposure also, so they will make various grading tables in order to give the gradings, and then depending on their exposure levels or the wattage levels, they can assign certain numbers to calculate the vulnerabilities. And this carry out this exercise to a sample household, and also if you consider all those sample households and sum up, then probably sample average vulnerability of that locality can also be found out. Of course, here one needs to consider that when we find out the common vulnerability of the area, then there are certain common public facilities which need to be incorporated into these calculations. And this kind of finding will be mainly useful in safety planning of the individual household and the disaster management plans for a locality. Normally it is done by district administration. So maybe this kind of study will be helpful for the district administrators to prepare a better disaster management plan for that locality. So I'll go to the model project 2. This is a health profile of a village. So it would help designing an improved health situation in a locality. What students are expected to do is collect the data from the hospital, but again we'll have to here reassert that going out from the house is not very encouraged during this situation. So if possible, they will have to talk to the doctors or the health workers and try to get those data. And supposing the data is received, in that case, what students can do. So what they will do is there's a name, gender, age, entry date, and recorded with a health issue. What kind of health issue they are suffering? So suppose H1, H2, sometimes H1, H3, H2. Again, this H1 is suppose stomachache, H2 is iron deficiency, or so on. So they will make a table like this of different ailments that are found in that locality. And then what they will do is they will try to get their frequency of each of the ailments, maybe what is the frequency of H1, H2, and H3, and they will rank them, which has the highest frequency. So they will rank those frequencies. Suppose that H1 is, suppose the highest, the value is C1, H2 is A for H2 ailment, it is C2, and so on. They will and they will pick up some 3 or 4 highest frequency ailments, and to have a further analysis, maybe they will look these kind of the ailments of H1, H2, 3 over a suppose a quarter, maybe January to March, which we will call M1, or April to June M2, and July to September M3, and so on. And again, there's the vertically down, they will have the different age groups. So this table will give the complete analysis, complete data display of the health profile of that area. And next come is the representation. This data can be represented by histogram, pie chart, etc. So here in this case, suppose for the ailment H1, so what is the distribution over the year? Suppose January to March, what is the number, and April to June, what is the number? So by this kind of pie chart, what I will get is the month sector share of the ailment. We will get H1. Similarly, we can make it for H2 and so on. And we can also make the histograms, which will give you for different. So first 3 measure the ailments. So what is the January to March, that we can make histograms too. So the histogram display, or what we can do, that during various ages, what is the ailment frequency as a function of the age. So these can also, so these will completely help one to get the health profile of that area, which can later be used for any kind of remedial actions. And model 3, very quickly I will go. So design of a raft or a belt from this PET, these PET bottles, those are drinking water bottles that many often these are thrown out. So these can be collected, and then a small raft can be constructed after, because these are light, so they contain air inside. If you cover up with its cork, then whatever the air is enclosed inside, and this air will give you certain floating conditions. So one can analyze the floating conditions, the details of the modeling part. So first we have to model the equilibrium. So for that we have the buoyancy formula. So working formula is, so here rho 1 is the density of water immersing a liquid, immersed liquid, and ρ2 is the density of the fluid which we use, that means air, and the V is the volume, and M, capital M, is the mass of maybe a person or some object which we need to put on this raft or this small boat, whatever it is. So a small formula will tell you that what is the number of what is the mass can be found. The mass that is supported is ρ2 minus ρ1. This is small buoyancy formula, and from there, if a single bottle has a small V volume, then capital V volume can be expressed as the n number of bottles. So from those small calculations, we can calculate out how many number of bottles are required. So in order to make a bottle. So field data will put, and suppose in order to support for 70 kg, we will find that roughly 35 number of 2 liters bottles are required in order to support a mass of 70 kg. And next comes the stability consideration, because this boat has to be stable too. And for that, so for that, there are two conditions. The center of gravity has to be as middle as possible. That requires the size to be a square size and the CG to be as lower as possible, and that gives that demands that some heavyweight materials like sand and gravels are to be put inside the bottle in order to make the raft stable. So there is of course a caveat. So if you put more sand and gravels, then this effective weight, this capital M, that's 70 kg, might be you may have to compromise. So similarly, model project for this is also similar to, one can consider this household grocery pattern, and if they properly studies, the details are here. And finally, so what is the amount of plastics that is entering into our kitchen through our grocery can be estimated. And apart from that, there are certain suggested project over certain fields like horticultural land, landslide survey area in the riverine survey in the riverine area, the traffic observation in the urban area, census data, socioeconomic survey data, and simple survey data can be utilized for further analysis and mathematical modeling. So thank you very much. Now I would like to hand over my mic to my colleagues, Professor Surajit Borkote. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Professor Bhim Sharma. So let me share my slides first. Okay. Is it coming?
Yes.
Is it coming?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Fine. So I am Surajit Borkote from Dibrugad University. Without much ado, let me go directly to some project proposals, possible project proposals. The first one I am picking up is the domestic consumption pattern of electricity. A scientific study based on mathematical. So mathematical modeling, already Professor Sharma has illustrated how a mathematical modeling can be formulated. So here I am talking about a very small or very simple project of consumption pattern to see the consumption pattern of electricity in, say, for example, 10 households in a particular locality. And the child scientists can look at the electric consumptions, which can be measured through the electric meters, which I have put on the left side of your slides. You can see, and they can take the reading per hour. Say for 10 days, they will take the reading for 1 hour at an interval of 1 hour. And they can take the help of the elders as well. And because nowadays we have the electronic meters, so therefore it would be easier for them to pick up this project. So once they find this data, then what they can do, this is the mathematics they can do. There is no much of mathematics here being involved. What they can do, let me use my, sorry. So what they can do, they can find out, they can draw a graph with, as you can see, a graph with x-axis as the time, and on the y-axis they can put the meter reading. So they can find out the meter reading as like at 9, they can record the number in the meter, and then after 1 hour, say at 10, they can again record a number or digits, whatever come up. Then they can find out the difference of these two. That would be the reading of that particular hour, and accordingly they can put these readings on the graph chart. And finally, over a period of time, here it's just an illustration I can show you. From 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. I have shown, and they can find out a graph. They can plot a graph with this information or with this data. Then from this data, you can see there are certain hours, there are certain times where the consumption, electric consumption is more, and there are certain times where the electric consumption is less. So this is what we call peak hours. So every household has some kind of a peak hour. So there may be more than one peak hour, and in some households there will be only a single peak hours. So once these peak hours are being identified, then the child scientist can find out what are the electric appliances being used during these peak hours, why these peak hours happen. That's their the first query or first question. So immediately they can find out what are the different electric appliances they have been used during these peak hours, and out of them they can find out over kind of different types of questions, or asking these household different people in the households what are the essential appliances being used during these peak hours, and what are not so essential appliances being used during this peak hour. So once again these two charts are being formulated, then they can again find out what are the essential appliances which have to be done during that time, and what are the inessential appliances which should not be done, or it is possible that they can be reduced, their uses can be reduced. So these are the different aspects they can look at, and they can find out different lists of these items. And once these items are being identified, they can provide some suggestions to these households to reduce their peak hours. Of course, this is something to do with our living with low consumption, or you can say what is it called, that main theme of our NCSC this for the last 2 years, that sustainable living. So here, while talking about sustainable living, it is our duty to reduce these peak hours. Therefore, they can suggest these households to reduce their peak hours, or they can change their peak hours in some sense. So they can, once these suggestions are being made, or some of the people, suppose they follow their suggestions, then after that, after following these suggestions, they can again find out, they can again make the readings of this whole problem. And then after maybe 10 to 15 days, first they can make a reading for 10 days, and then there is a gap. Then after that, they will go for another 10 days of reading. Then they can make a comparison between these two things, and they can find out whether whatever suggestions they have made make any changes in their consumption pattern. Okay, so that is one kind of a project. And from this, what they can do, they can ask these households to change their peak hours. Why this is important? Because if suppose in the same locality, more than one household has the same peak hours, that means their electric consumption during that period will be very high, and therefore all the appliances being used during that period for all these households will be affected by that peak hours. So there is a possibility that if it is possible, then they can change their peak hours according to their requirements. This is number one. This is one project. The second project is a very simple, another simple, very kind of, which can be doable, which is doable by maybe children studying in class 8, 9, 7. From 7 itself they can do, but it is advisable to take students from class 8, 9 or something like that. So what they can do, it's a kind of profit maximization problem. It's a mathematical model through which one can maximize his profit. How this can be done? Suppose there is a field where for simplicity we are taking only 2 types of crops, or maybe 2 types of cultivations. One is cabbage and the other is say cauliflower. This can be any 2. This can be any 2, and just for illustration purpose I am taking only these 2 things. And suppose in this particular field, either you can only cultivate cabbage or you can cultivate cauliflower. There is no problem at all. But the point is that because of storage problem, because of demand in the market, it's not advisable to completely cultivate only cabbage or completely cultivate only cauliflower. So there must be a mix, there must be a blending between these 2 different vegetables. So therefore, what my proposal is, suppose you want to produce X kg of cabbage and Y kg of cauliflower from this field, but under certain conditions. What are those conditions? Because of health issues, you cannot put lot of manure, you cannot put lot of pesticides. So therefore, there is a rule to apply the manure, there is a rule for applying the pesticides, and these rules are being fixed, or these rules are being known to the farmers from their own experiences, or maybe they are being suggested by the agriculture department or agricultural extension officers. So what it's for, again for illustration purpose, what I am taking, say 1 kg of cabbage, when it is to be produced, it requires a 1 mg, maximum 1 mg of 1 milligram of manure. Similarly, 1 kg of cauliflower also requires 1 milligram of say manure. And similarly, for 1 kg production of cabbage, you need, say for example, 2 milligram of pesticides, and for cauliflower, again 1 kg of cauliflower you need 3 milligram of pesticides. So this is the standard. This is the standard for your that is being fixed by the government or maybe the agencies, health agencies, and something like that. And the children can get this information from the local bodies. Okay. Now the second constraint is like you cannot, for this particular area, for this particular field, you cannot apply more than 50 mg of manure. That is a requirement. Okay, that is a constraint here. And also you cannot apply more than 120 milligram of say pesticide. Then with these constraints, I want to maximize my production, and production in the sense that I want to maximize the profit of my production. So what is the information so far we have? Say that this information is again can be collected from the farmer who is doing this type of farming. So say for example, 1 kg of cabbage has a profit of 5 rupees, and 1 kg of cauliflower has a profit of 6 rupees. Okay. Now, because I want to produce X kg of cabbage, Y kg of cauliflower, so if you want to find out the total profit out of it, it would be nothing but 5x plus 6y, 5 into x plus 6 into y. That is my profit. So you can see on the down left, the profit is in the blue sentence, blue alphabets, z equal to 5x plus 6y. And then I want to maximize this particular profit. But again, what are my constraints? My constraints are x plus y is less than 50, that is coming because of the manure constraint, and 2x plus 3y is less than 120, that is coming because of the pesticide constraint. And once this is done, this is the formulation, then I can draw a graph with this cabbage on the x-axis and cauliflower on the y-axis, and I can draw the curves or the straight lines made by this x plus y equal to 50 and 2x plus 3y equal to 120. And this is, we can recall, these things, the straight lines are being, the students are kind of familiar with the straight lines from class 8 or class 9. So therefore, the teacher can also guide them to, how to draw a straight line with these formulations. So x plus y equal to 50. So something less than 50 means anything below this straight line. Similarly, something less than 120 means anything below this straight line. So you can see on the right hand side, there are two straight lines, yellow straight lines, and there is a red dotted straight line at the origin. So this dotted straight line represents the profit, 5x plus 6y. When it is at the origin, so 5x plus 6y equal to 0. So there is no profit. But because there is a feasible region which is within these two straight lines, then we can extend this profit along this blue dotted line. So that is once it goes from the origin, then we get some amount of profit increased. And this profit can be increased. It can go beyond this region. But because we cannot go beyond the constant region, therefore, you can see a point xy, which this and the red dotted straight line, that this red dotted straight line cannot go beyond this point. And therefore, this xy is the kind of, x is the maximum amount of cabbage I can produce, and y is the maximum amount of cauliflower I can produce from this particular setup. So this xy once this xy is being obtained, so that is giving you the maximum profit. So this is a very interesting example where students can learn some amount of mathematics. At the same time, they can learn the application of different mathematical concepts that has been used in day-to-day life. So this is another example. And finally, there are some probable project ideas based on this particular modeling sub-theme. In fact, you can see this modeling part can be used in different themes. All the 4 themes can take the help of this modeling part. So yesterday also there was some discussion on this living space management during lockdown. And today also Madam Maithili Hazarika also talked about the family space or family time among the people during the time of lockdown. So you can see there has been an adjustment among the people in a family during the lockdown. Why? Because earlier a small house had only 1 or 2 people, and only on the occasions all the other family members gathered together, and it lasted for maybe 2 or 3 days. But because of lockdown, the students who studied somewhere else, they have come back to their homes, and the people who worked somewhere else, they have come back to their homes, and therefore the small space, the small living space is being shared by more people. So therefore there can be an estimation of how this space is being kind of effectively shared by all these people. You can see the living space so that maximum daylight is used, because again the consumption of electricity is important. And therefore, and of course, when the people are all together, there is no source of kind of earning. Most of them are being kind of being unemployed, and therefore they have to use maximum. They have to make the maximum use of daylight, kind of this. And therefore, what they can do, the living space should be so that the maximum daylight is being used. Then if there are issues in the flat dwellers, where because more people are being living in a small kind of households, therefore there is scarcity of water, there is scarcity of the electricity, and also there is leakage of the toilet system, there is overflooding of the toilet system. All these problems are coming because of this sharing of the by more people sharing of the living space. And also, again, sharing of the toilets and the bathroom uses. So these are all different issues which can be modeled through these mathematical models. And also there can be designs based on these things. How these designs can be done? So you can see that arrangement of the study table, because suppose only one child was there who would be studying earlier, but because now all the schools and universities or colleges are now closed, all the college students and the university students of that particular family, they have come back. Now they have to share their study time among these 3 or 4 people. How this can be done? Okay, there can be an arrangement of the study table. Whether these arrangements are being made properly, whether there is scope for better design of this arrangement of the study table. These are different, very simple problems, but they can come also under the purview of designing. And therefore, even putting a curtain, what type of a curtain can be put in a room so that you can get the maximum daylight. At the same time, your parents may be kind of they need more time to sleep. At time of say around 10 p.m. they have to go to bed. But because now you have more students in the family, the students have to go for their studies after 10. Then how this space can be arranged? So these are different, very simple kind of small problems, but they have very much big implications. Okay, during the time of lockdown, and these are different problem or project proposals on these. These are different project prospects which the students or the children can take up. So with this, I conclude. Thank you very much.
Vipul Sharma.
Yes, everyone. Is my presentation visible to all of you?
No, still not.
Slide one ID.
One I Vipul, look, try koile hobo.
1 minute.
Share koi show.
Can you see the slide now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Well, good evening, everyone. So today I'm going to discuss 2 project design under this sub-theme 4, design development, planning and modeling. So there have been several questions, those are working in our minds, like can we somehow improve our biodiversity that are just near to us, or can we improve the theme like collectivism? Can we do something in that line? So on these 2 questions, I have planned to do 2 things here. Number 1 is can we improve the biodiversity by nesting birds around us? This could be one project, a very nice project and easily doable that I'm going to discuss today. And the second point is how the collectivism issue can be drawn by considering a groundwater crisis as a problem at a particular location. So these questions I have taken as to model the 2 projects, and I have put the names accordingly: nesting birds in improving biodiversity and local characteristics for water crisis. So I'll show you this example. You all can see here in this slide, dove, this Koposarai. So if we try to understand a few things about this bird, their food habits are like they take seeds, cultivated grains, peanuts, grass, weeds, or sometimes herbs, etc. And what type of nest or they prefer or they live. So they normally make their nest in the dense foliage on the branch of an evergreen tree. But the most important point here is they're generally unbordered by nesting around humans. So that means such kind of birds can be invited to stay along with us or near to us, near our homes. And at the last point, you can see in the red color, sometimes they use their own and other nest. So that means if we make a nest for them, they will stay there only. They generally don't bother about to stay in their own make homes. So that means we can make homes for them. So these are some of the background ideas of designing this project. So similar projects are around us. We can design homes for them and invite them to stay just near to you. These are some of the examples which are easily available in our surrounding, particularly in this season. So we all are aware of such kind of birds roaming around us. So to design this project, I'm putting a little more emphasis on the methodology, how we'll proceed. So first point would be, we need to observe the biodiversity. That means we need to observe birds that are visiting to our area, to our home, or maybe to the nearby area or the villages. Then we can analyze the abundances of such birds or their diversity, or we can calculate the frequencies. Already our previous resource person has nicely demonstrated how we can calculate different diversity, like beta diversity, alpha diversity, gamma diversity, etc. So we can make tables, or we can collect the databases based on that idea, and we can make our tables ready at the beginning of this project. Then we have to observe and make and then install modular nest. So that means we need to understand what kind of nest these birds required. Then we try to make such nests with easily available materials. Then we need to install those nests in appropriate places. Some nests might be placed in the trees, or some nests need to be placed in near our homes, outside home, or little dark areas. So we need to find out those areas to install those nests, and the type of nest we need to make for such birds. Then towards the end, again, we need to repeat and observe the biodiversity. Then we need to compare the point 1 and point 3 and how this is moving. And I'm sure that once we do this exercise, the birds will definitely be attracted to stay near us, or in the nest that we are providing them to stay. And here are some of the data sets that we are going to collect. These are some arbitrary numbers that I have put to explain the theme. So say we are trying to identify the diversity of a few birds as bird 1, bird 2, or so and so. Or we can make it as diversity alpha, beta, gamma, etc. We can make these bar diagrams also from that, and we'll have the idea actually what are the frequencies of such birds visiting to that area. And accordingly, we can make our plan, or we can predict actually how many nests we should make. Suppose one bird is visiting very frequently, or maybe the abundances of that bird is very high in that area. So for that, we need to make more number of birds. So we can make a prediction table based on these data sets, diversity. So how many nests we are going to make. But this could be any less number also, any number we can put it. There is no restriction, but this is giving us little idea. If one bird is coming in more number, so we can provide them more shelters to stay. So this is what we need to understand actually, what type of birds we should or nest we should make depending on what kind of or what types of nest they use to stay. So if you see from the first figure to the last, their types are somewhat different to each other. So for that, we can make, this is the prediction table. So based on the types of nest and based on the frequency of the birds that are visiting to that place, we can have the prediction table and make number of nests that is required, or we are planning to make the number of nests. And then what materials we require, all these materials are easily available to us. We can start with a bamboo basket, and we can have clay mud handi, clay water pot, we can have shoe box, card box, then we need threads, and then we have straws. So all these materials we have near to us. So we can make good use of all these materials by making bird nest. But one point I want to add here, using clay mud handi and clay water pot, because if it is rainy season, the water may accumulate inside it, and we need to make some holes to drain out those waters, or those holes also provide ambient condition to the nest. So then I think the bird will feel comfort inside or sitting or sleeping inside that nest. So we need to make sure those points while making those nets. Then the next point is we need to install in appropriate places. We can see two pictures here, like that we can place those nests in appropriate places with appropriate design of the nest. We can see the holes in that handi. Then we can see some figures here. We can install that, and we can keep observing whether the birds are coming to that nest and started staying there or not. So that frequency data table we can have after installing all these nests. And these are few more. This is a nest for kingfisher. We can make it in the mud where wetland is there. So we can make it in this way. So make a hole here. There is a tunnel kind of thing, and that interior part is little wider in nature. So where the bird will go inside and sleep. So we can make such kind of nest by using thermocols or other materials, but we have to make a tunnel for the bird. So we can make different kind of nest for those birds visiting to that particular places. As I said, towards the end, again we need to repeat the step one, where we will try to find out the diversity of those birds, and I'm sure this diversity will improve. And that improvement can be observed if we take the data of the biodiversity from week to week. There are few data, arbitrary data that I have put. So I'm expecting that we are going slowly upwards. So that means the diversity is increasing from week to week. So in 2 to 3 months, at least we can improve this comparison table, or towards the end, the diversity will definitely improve. And this is a tremendous success, I feel so, in this project. And the take-home message would be from this project is, by improving the biodiversity, or increasing or diversifying the range of habitats, we can increase the biodiversity. So this can be achieved easily by doing this small exercise. Yeah, so in project 2, sorry, one more slide over there. So related ideas to design a project with the same improving biodiversity could be, we can increase the vegetation structure feasible at a site to attract birds or insects. We can plant pollen and nectar plants to attract good insects, bees, etc. So plant fruits and vegetables, and try to buy local products if we can, so that we can again plant fruits and vegetables locally. Then we should try to conserve wetland waters. So where also how the conservation is going on, we can make a project out of that. Then conserve our used water, then reduce irrigation. So many factors are there. On each and every factors, we can nicely design a project that is related to improving biodiversity around us. Well, the second project is concentrating on local characteristics for water crisis. So if I show you a few pictures here, just look at the left two pictures, one tube well and one well, where you can see the abundances of water. The water is falling automatically, and even in the well also water is coming nicely. So that means water problem is not there. But this is not the current situation in many places, particularly in urban areas. So the right hand side, all three figures are displaying our present scenario, particularly in the winter season in the urban areas. So this is what is happening. So we have water crisis. So what could be the reason of this water crisis? One major problem is we are installing a lot of bore wells and we are extracting water from the ground. So and how we are using, that is another issue. But how we are pulling it out and how much we are pulling it out, what time we are pulling it out. So all that needs to be taken care. So based on this scenario, this project is designed with the following methodology. What we are going to do is first we'll select a location. Particularly urban area is preferable because always we see this issue that is suffering from water crisis, particularly in the winter season. Then we should try to collect some initial information from X number of households. Say we select an area, it may be a ward, it may be a village, or it may be suppose 10 to 20 households around you who are suffering from water crisis during a season. So we can choose any number of value here or household, and then we can use Google Forms to collect all these data. But we need to send the Google Form link to all those households and request them to just fill the information so that you can make your project ready. So what are the information we require for it? We need to ask them how many bore wells are installed in your household, or how many tube wells are there, how many wells are there, etc. Informations we can collect. And not only that, we will ask few more questions in the point number 2, where we are going to calculate the groundwater level from the item listed in table 1. So how we are going to do it? So we are going to ask few more questions about the bore wells that was installed in a particular household, like how many pipes are being there, or how many rings in that well are there, etc. Information we will try to collect, and what is the length of that pipe. I think every household are keeping these informations with them. We can easily collect these informations by asking some questions to them. Then we'll also try to ask few more questions like what is the consumption rate or peak hours. That means what time they pull out the water by using the pump, or how much time they use the pump, etc., etc. If we know the details of the pump, then we can have the information about how many gallons are being pulled out in that day or every day. So like that information we can have by using a simple Google form, asking the people to kindly fill up those informations, or if the situation improves, we can physically go and request them to have these informations with you. Then let us see some of the databases in the tabulate form. So these are the preliminary information. Suppose H means the household 1, they have one bore well, or they do not have any wells. They have one tube well as well, along with the bore well. Then they lift the water at morning 7 a.m., say evening 6 p.m., 2 times in a day, or water lifting duration approximately say 30 minutes. So if we have details about the pump, what pump they are using, what is the horsepower of that pump, etc., at least we can have approximate information about how many gallons or what volume water they have pulled out from the ground. So similarly, all the information from other households also can be collected, and they can be drawn in a short form. So from here we can have some idea. So I'm going to discuss about that. Now we will try to calculate at what level the water is available from the surface. So if we have information about the number of pipes used in that bore well, suppose 3, for example, 1, and then pipe length is 20 feet, so we have 60 feet down the earth, that water layer is there, and we are that particular household is boring the water from 60 feet depth. So similarly, the depth of the water layer can be measured by using these informations, and we can place it in a chart diagram. So from here, what informations we are going to get, what layer is practically using in that area. So that means the whole pressure is going on that area. As I shown in one of the previous picture, that we have many layers, many water layers in the ground, but only that particular layer is being used to pull out the water for that particular locality. So that can be easily identified. And we can identify the household also. So which household is pulling out the water from that layer. So then also the time factor is very, very important. We can calculate the consumption peak hours, and then we'll try to segregate these timings. Okay, suppose household 1 is using at 7, again household 1 is using at 6 p.m. So then we have this curve, and from this curve we can identify the location where maximum number of household is using the pumps. So we can have the timing, we can see the timing, evening time and morning time. Most of the households are using their pumps to pull out the water. So then what we need to do from this information is we can segregate this information in a comfortable manner, so that every household will get to know that we will not have the crisis if we do not pull out water at suppose evening 6 p.m. instead of 6. If we have a time at say noon 12 or afternoon 1 or so and so in different timing, and that time frame can be met so that we can have a linear curve, so that every household will get the required amount of water at different time frame. So that time frame can be predicted from this model. And I feel this is a nice example of collectivism, so that collectively everybody can help each other to get the water nicely from this exercise. So important points from here is we need to identify the peak time and number of pumps lifting the water. Then we need to segregate these informations, or we can arrange the time slots for all the individual households, maybe say between 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. tentatively. Then we can aware all households, or we can just intimate them. You just switch on your pump at this time only, not at this time. Or its families, and request to use the time slots provided for water pump. So that model can nicely give us a good idea what time we should use that water pump instead of using the water pumps at the same time, or almost in the same time zone. So this is one of the good example, I feel, based on the idea collectivism. So other parameters influencing water crisis could be soil quality, porosity. There's a lot of opportunities to work on water crisis. We can find out different issues to make our project ready. So I think I'm almost done, but at this point I would like to thank Jayanta Kumar Sharma sir and Mandir Bhattacharya sir for their valuable inputs in improvising some of the aspects in both the projects. So thank you, sir, and thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you. I thank all the resource persons for their nice presentations. We'll definitely interact with them after all the technical sessions. So now I am moving towards our last technical session, that is a traditional knowledge for sustainable living. So for this technical session, we have two eminent resource person in the field, Sri Jayanta Kumar Sharma, as you have already heard him yesterday. Jayanta Kumar Sharma is a freelance environmental consultant and member of National Academic Committee NCSC, and Dr. Vibhuti Ranjan Bhattacharya is a researcher of Jawaharlal Nehru University. So I would like to request both the resource person to kindly present their topics. Thank you.
I would like to request Vibhuti to start. After that, if anything required, I will share.
Okay, sir. Okay. Vibhuti.
Okay. Right. Thank you. Sir, presentation to I say, na?
I say.
Hi. So good evening to all of you. Our next theme is traditional knowledge. Next sub-theme, traditional knowledge system for sustainable living. So when we say about traditional knowledge, we all know that in our society or in our social system, we have certain knowledge or information which is not documented or which will not be found in the books and other written form, but it is evolving or it is transmitting from one generation to other generation and next generation. So this type of knowledge is available. In some cases, we get this through storytelling or sometimes poetry, music, dance, etc. And it is available in all these day-to-day overall in our day-to-day life. Maybe it's related to medicine, agriculture, ecological knowledge, etc. Even in handicraft, etc. Now, if we see this type of knowledge, we will find mainly three different categories. Part one is traditional ecological knowledge. It is mainly related to our environment. Say, for example, environment restoration or environment protection, or related different what to be done in particular season or what to be not to be done in a particular season. This type of knowledge or information is with us. And then there may be some certain kind of knowledge which is or information which is related to traditional technical knowledge. When we say about technical knowledge, it is about different tools, machineries. It is related to in our day-to-day life, so even different agricultural tools, or maybe it may be related to our cottage industry, handicraft, etc. Then third category is traditional value and ethics. It is related to our mainly social norms or values, or maybe many times we heard about that this to be done or this socially it is not acceptable. This type of knowledge we can categorize as traditional value and ethics. Now, what is the benefit and or why we should study this traditional knowledge system? So if we see this type of knowledge or information give us or help us in different decision making or survival strategy. So decision making or survival strategy, when we say about, say for example, for a particular product or for a particular thing, we depend on the nature. Now, if we collect these things or if we work in certain season, it may hamper or it may disturb our overall ecosystem. So we know it, or we learn it from our previous generation that this to be not to be done in a particular. Say, for example, we should not collect that particular product X in season Y. So this type of knowledge. So this is the way it helps us in decision making or survival. It increases opportunity for socio-economic development. Say, for example, if we collect certain products, or if we sell it, or if it is related to livelihood, or say, for example, many times we are dependent on agricultural products. We collect firewood from the forest. So when we study this knowledge, or when you study this traditional knowledge system associated with those collection system or those process or production process, then what will happen if we study this traditional knowledge? Then it will give us the opportunity to improve it, or to improve its productivity, or to improve its value, which will again connect it to our socio-economic development. I will give some examples in later slide. Then it helps us provide rights for stakeholders. So how it gives rights? Say, for example, we have a certain knowledge. if we don't document it, or if we don't study, or if we don't document it or don't study, then what will happen? Its rights may be taken by other countries or other societies or by different groups. So I will give some examples which will make it more clear how it gives us rights. Then preserve knowledge base of communities. Why preserve knowledge? Because many times sometimes knowledge is missing. Say for example, if we see a certain traditional knowledge or certain information, if we see in a community, only certain percentage of people who are older, they know it, but our new generation don't know it. So if we don't study it or if we don't document it, then we will miss it in a certain point of time. So other things creates added value, I already explained, and enable participation in global market. I already said that if we document it or if we try to improve its value or improve its efficiency, it help us to marketing it, or it help us to participate in a global market. Now I am giving now that example. Say for example, in 2006, a British firm, they developed one product, pharmaceutical product. They mix ginger and a plant that is called key plant, and they said they sell it as a treatment or as a medicine for cold. Now our Indian, but that system, that is mixer, that what pharmaceutical product they have developed, it is actually mentioned dating back to 18th century in our Indian system, and it was used traditionally in our society. So our India cited this text that it is already in place and it is not your product, it is our product. Then British Patent Office rejected their patent that is given to the British firm. So as I already told that in the previous slides, that if we study it or if we document it, this type of in this type of conflicts, it helps us because it gives us evidence that yes, it is our knowledge, you cannot take it from us, or if you take it from us, you have to give us royalty. So as per international laws, etc. Then I am giving another example, the case of Colgate. So Colgate, the company Colgate, they patented a tooth cleaning powder. Now what happens after their once they launch it or once they apply for patenting, then some of our Indian activities claim that it is practiced for hundreds of years in India. But then Colgate claimed that no, it is used in India, but they have standardized it. They use red iron oxide to which is less aggressive and which is better for tooth cleaning activities. Now, this example give us hints actually how our study or how our intervention can help it to make it better. Then I am giving some scopes or some examples for project ideas. So in case of Assam, if we see in from context to context or from different villages or from different regions, there are different architecture buildings are here. Even in our for students, if they study in their particular village, there may be available certain different structures, architectural structures. So there is a good opportunity to study those architectural structures. Now, if they go for a project based on their architectures, then what type of project or how they should go ahead, I will explain here. So first, they should document the background. Now, when we speaks about these architectures or variation of architecture in buildings, there are certain factors which is related, background factors. So these factors may be certain related to local needs. Say for example, particular climate, this type of structure is good. That type of traditional knowledge may be there. They should study it or they should try to explore it, and it should be reflected in their project project that is they have developed. Then it may be related to local material. Say for example, in particular region, if bamboo is highly available, that is the reason why they may use bamboo extensively in this building. Or in some, say for example, in some roofing material, different types of roof materials are used in different places. So this type of knowledges or this type of information or how this is connected with the architecture, they need to study. Then may be related to some local tradition. It may be related to local tradition. So then Sometimes it may be related to skill of builders. Say, for example, in a particular village, there is a certain group of people who has a certain skill. So if students study it or students explore it, they will see that their skill is reflected in the building. So that needs to be studied as part of this project. Then it may be related to environmental factors. I already told that it may be related to weather, it may be geology, land, and maybe some flood, etc. Maybe it may be, say for example, in a structure, if it is related to their ground is very higher, then it may be related to flood or many other climatic issues. So then maybe there will be other factors like family size or social norms, values. They have to explore all these factors. First, they have to explore it, and they accordingly write it in this project report. Then they have to decide this objective. What may be the objectives? Now I am giving here an example. Say for example, they can decide or inside objectives like to observe identity list of buildings with traditional architecture. Say for example, they can take as an example that in their village they will study what are the different type of traditional architecture that is. Then they have to study, understand the simple engineering principle. What are the principles used in this while developing these buildings or while developing this architecture? Now, in that case, if they want to explore this engineering principle, they have to collaborate with expertise who have knowledge related to engineering, who are mostly from engineering background. That will help them to understand how it is related to the architecture. Then they can study about the suitability of the building in particular condition, local condition. When they say about particular local condition, say for example, in the month of July, it is generally summer season in Assam. So lower the temperature, inside room temperature, then it is better. So accordingly, how it is how much it is suitable in the particular condition, they should study. Then methodology, they list the buildings I already mentioned. Then identify representative buildings, because say for example, they cannot, as we have some time constraint as part of the project in a CSC project, so they cannot study n numbers of buildings. So they have to first decide how many building structure they will study. Say for example, 3 structure or 2 structure. They have to identify first. Then they can study the ambient temperature, light, ventilation, etc. Say for example, for ambient temperature I already mentioned, they can see light. Actually, those buildings where they get more solar light, it will be better because their energy consumption will be less. So accordingly, they can calculate the energy consumption. Less energy consumption will be better for sustainability point of view. They can also analyze the material use in a different structure and how it is related to sustainability. Say for example, particular structure, they use a particular material, say material Y. But there may be the situation that this material is not available at that juncture of time. Then sustainability point of view, it will be not good. It will be not a good building material for that particular region. So this type of things they should study. Then they can analyze the engineering principle I already mentioned, aesthetic, etc. They can go for through questionnaire method, and then finally they can develop or present a comparative analysis. Which one is better on what point of on which factors they can study. Then they can also study different seed storage method. Actually, if we see in our village condition, different traditional methods are used for seed storage, and in some cases there may be a comparative analysis, comparative study of a traditional process within new or technique. If some new method is introduced, new technology is introduced in their villages, they can study. They can go for a comparative study. In that case, they have to study various preservation techniques used in both the cases. Then they can see which type of material is used or availability of this material. Now, in the methodology objective, they have to list methodology. They have to list the seeds and grains stored using this traditional method. Again, I'm saying when they go for studying this seed storage method, they cannot again study the n number of seeds. They have to identify either 2 or 3 as per their convenience. Then document the method of preservation in both the cases, or if they study 3 cases, then in the 3 cases. Then effectiveness of method through comparison. They have to see that how much effective, or they can analyze its quality of us after a certain period of time, and they can also calculate the quality or analysis. They also can do some. They can take 3 different pots. Say, for example, if there is 3 different seeds, they can take 3 different pots, and they can allow them to germinate, and they can calculate the percentage. So for out of 100 seeds, how many germinate, or they can see the germination times, etc. This type of calculation they can do for. Then there is some other projects our opportunities are there here. Traditional crop rotation method they can study. Then different tool use and how their traditional knowledge or traditional information is associated with this type of tools. They can study it, or they can after the study or based on their result, they can propose some better tools which will help them to improve productivity or effectiveness or efficiency. And there is other scopes are there for studying. Say, for example, if a particular village, if it is related to a near fringe village of a forest, then many times what happens, I already mentioned that villagers go to forest area to collect different forest goods. So here again, different scopes are there for study. For example, if a if a group of villagers go to a forest in a particular season, then they have a certain knowledge or certain information that this particular season, that particular or X for a particular season X, that Y goods, there are certain goods which is actually grow more. So to control the population, it needs to be collected. So this type of census kind of information, which actually give them as census related information about that particular population. So this type of information may be with the community. They can try to explore if that is available with the community. Again, there is other side also there in this the project area. So for example, a particular forest good is sold in a market. In a particular season, if there is the demand is high but availability is low, then is it related to the availability in the forest, or its market price is related to the availability of the particular goods in the forest? This type of study, there is lots of scope. Similarly, there is scope for medicinal plants. In many villages where still medicinal plants play an important role in their healthcare system. But when we use these medicinal plants related to health issues, then we have to be very cautious, because we have to study these medicinal plants. The students can study these medicinal plants. They can study what type of components is there, or compound is there, because of which actually it help us in solving these issues related to health. And they can also study this if there is a scope for intervention which will make it better. But this type of study, again, there need to be some sort of expert group. Otherwise what will happen? These technical things, it will be very difficult to extract the science or technical things. So, for example, I am giving an example. In during the COVID pandemic time, many people are saying that ginger, turmeric, etc., are improving our immunity. Now, if that is the case, then what amount we have to consume it? And I'm giving just an example. There may be some other cases where these villagers use these medicinal plants. Now, if there's they collaborate with certain expert groups or expert who have knowledge related to medicine, they can student can explore it, that particular medicinal plants, what amount it is to be taken and how it is related to our health. This type of study scope is there. Then they can study related to water. They can study, because water is used from in different water is used for different use in different works in our day-to-day life. Sometimes it's used as a water power that is converted to mechanical work, say for example to run water mills. Then sometimes it is used as a irrigation purpose. And if we see the irrigation, there again in a certain society, in a certain context, there will be different type of irrigation practices are there. Now, how these different type of water practices is related to crop? Is it related to certain crops, or is it related to amount of land it is used for this particular crop. There may be different factors associated with it, and even there is a certain scope for technical intervention also. The student can explore that efficiency of a particular irrigation system, or they can go for study for comparison of 2-3 systems, how efficiency varies, and they can explore if certain intervention or new technological intervention will help it to make it better, to improve its efficiency. This type of study scope is there. Then water harvesting technologies are used to research underground aquifers. Say for example, I am giving here an example. Say for example, in many villages, mainly in the farmland, there are small ponds are there. Now, why this type of ponds? These ponds are used for ages or for centuries. Now, why this type? How it is related to our groundwater level? Is it related to groundwater level, or is it related to other factors related to the overall ecosystem? They can study. Similarly, as I already mentioned, they can see, they can study this water structure, and they can explore if their intervention will help to improve its water storage system or overall effectivity or efficiency. This type of study they can explore. Then in the certain parts, mainly in the Bhutan borders, there is a dong system, where in dong system, if there is again different scopes are there. It is a water management system. Now it gives water for agricultural purposes, in some parts even for drinking water. Now they can study overall the system in the how actually it is managed. Then they can also study if there is a technical intervention is necessary to make it better. And it is actually using surface water by in the case of a dong. But if they go for groundwater, we are depleting the groundwater level. So there may be kind of study also there how it is helping to not to depleting that groundwater level. So this type of study scope is there, and it is a traditional method. So they can explore how actually hundreds of years ago people explored this type of study, this type of system, water management system. They can see it. And in a particular season when there is no water available, how this dong system is giving the water to a particular society or to a particular village, and how it is related to their socioeconomic status or socioeconomic fabric. So they can explore it. Then other study scopes are there in weaving. In when we say about weaving or handloom system, there is a different processes are there, from cultivation of fiber, then spinning and dyeing the yarn, then pre-loom activities. When we say pre-loom activities, again there are three, four steps. Parn winding, sectional warping process is there. Then hang to bobbin processes are there. Then finally it goes to weaving. In each and every process, there are different traditional knowledges are there. And even if we see, for example, if we see the parn winding process, it is traditionally done and conventional tools are used. So students or children can study this traditional process. They can study the drudgery involved in the traditional process, and they can explore if it needs to be standardized to make it better, to make it efficient, or to reduce the health drudgery associated in the traditional process. Then in this process, they have to take a particular activity, say for example, parn winding. Then they have to take an kind of a group of artisans or group of weavers who is working it for a long time. Then they can first study the background, that how this knowledge is associated, how they got the knowledge, and because generally it is again evolving from one generation to another generation. Then they can see what is the parn winding technique, that is how it is rotated, what type of speed is associated with it, RPM. Then this can be studied. Then they can go study health drudgery. If a woman works for 8 hours or 6 hours, whatever, then what is their status of their health, or if it's associated with any musculoskeletal pain, etc., they can explore it. Then finally, they can propose certain better process or better improvised method to make it more effective and less drudgery. Then how to dye yarn. In the dyeing process, if a children study, then they will see that there is again certain plants are available, plants are associated with it. Many times again, these plants are collected from forest, or many times it is available in the village. Again, they can study this type of plants because it is again a missing link. There is a missing. So many times what happens, new generation cannot identify the particular plants if we say them. So there is a scope for study. They can study how this dyeing is effective or not, whether it is effective or not. They can study. And again, as I already mentioned, there is scope for technological intervention. If it is there's a need to improvise the process or improvise the technology to make it better, this type of study scope is there. So again, I am giving another example for in the villages where there is eri spinning related activities are there, or eri rearing activities are there, then the student will see that eri cocoons are boiled in curry, that is a alkali mix with water. It is locally developed in this village. So they can study this type of processes is there. I am just giving eri. In some other cottage industry or in some traditional activities, this type of compound or sometimes material is developed locally. Now they can study their science behind it, or is it necessary, is it required to improve it, or if it is not documented, what is the production process, what are the compounds required to make it. So these are the certain some scopes associated with this sub-team. Then when we say about weaving, there is some intricate patterns are designed, or intricate patterns or designs are weaved by our weavers. So if students explore it, then they will see that it is again related to certain our social norms or values. Not all patterns, but certain patterns are associated with it. So they can also see how this type of pattern is associated with our social norms, value, or our culture. So if they document it or if they study it, then it will give them other possibilities. Say, for example, if to develop a particular or to weave a particular intricate patterns is necessary to technological intervention, or if students study, they can also propose a new technology. Simple as there is another sub-team, it is again will be connected to appropriate technology. So this type of study there is a study scope for students. Then, as I mentioned, the traditional cottage industry, there is lots of scope. Even in pottery, if we say, then bell metal industry, they can again, as I already mentioned, they can study the traditional process, how it is developed, how design is made. And if we say pottery, then again they can study that science related to clay, because clay is the scarcity of clay is a major issue in that sector. Then they can also see how these designs are made in this bell metal industry, how material knowledge is associated, because we are saying that plastic is not good for our environment concern or sustainability point of view. Then because hundreds of years ago, the people uses this clay, that is pottery, as a material. So this type of study scopes are here. Again, I already mentioned that tools associated both with pottery and as well as bell metal industry. Different tools are used. These are conventional tools. These tools structures, how these tools were developed. So, and is it required to improve it to with new science or new technological innovation? So this type of study scope is there. Then here I am giving another example. Here it is not related to us or India, but you can see it. These photos. It is the first photo, that is left hand top. It is a cactus. Then cactus is cut into pieces in the next photo. Then it is dried. Then it is dried, and then finally it is packaged. And in this process, they mix the actually fodder for cattle. Now, if it is mixed with cattle for fodder, now for fodder for cattle. Now, in our villages, we know that there are this type of traditionally or locally available cattle fodders are there. Now, student can study if this type of fodder which is not documented or which is not very much popular to other regions. So they can study it and they can explore it if it necessary to improve it, or say, for example, if in a particular plants or particular compound is used as a fodder to improve productivity or milk production for cattle, then what is the compound or what is the science behind it? They can study it. And There's another opportunity to make the fodder, or to if in certain cases if it needs necessary to mix two compound, then is there certain technological intervention is necessary. And as I showed here in the last photograph, that is photo D, here you can see they have developed a nice packaging material so that it can be marketed. Now for this packaging material, the students or children can explore if this type of packaging is required, or they can also work for developing new packaging material. When we speak about packaging material, they can also explore if locally available packaging material can be used. It is in different parts of Assam. This type of practices are there where plants, leaves, etc. are used as a packaging material. So they can study it, or they can think about improvise this traditional process. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vibhuti. Sharma sir, kiba kobo neki okoman?
Thank you, Buzar Barua. I think there is a shortage of time. I'm not going to use any PPT, because in such kind of discussion, sometimes this PPT creates a hazard, because there is a tendency to speak all the slides.
Right. Okay.
So first thing, for all the respective participants, traditional knowledge is a very critical component of the study among all the sub-teams. This criticality, because the traditional knowledge system documentation and analysis requires a multidisciplinary approach. It is not a single, from the one discipline, it cannot be analysis. Understanding of the oral history, understanding about the sociocultural conditions, understanding about the geo-ecological conditions, all these are important component, as well as the understanding about the chemistry involved in it, physics involved in it, or the technological perspective involved in particular functions. So from that perspective, it requires lots of dimension to observe. From that perspective, the respective teacher guide, he or she may not be acquainted with all this. For him or her, it is always better to consult with the respective disciplinary people from the respective disciplines to get the idea, so that that can be properly transmitted to the child. This is very important. And another important, nowadays this is very strict, actually. There is a ethical concern related to traditional knowledge system studies. Suppose a Kirby boy is doing on the Kirby traditional knowledge system. In such cases, this ethical concern is not very much. He or she need to get an endorsement from the respective village where he is doing the study. That is only the permissions. But a boy or girl from the other community doing a study on the other communities' practices, in that case, there is a ethical framework that needs to be followed. The first, you have to get the permissions from the community properly and do the research. In such kind of thing, understanding about the respective dialogue or language is very important. In such case, there may be a requirement of the interpreter for the purpose, which is very much pertinent. And again, in such kind of studies, one important thing need to be oriented to the child is that when they start the study, they forget about the commercialization, global marketing, etc. That is not the main purpose of the things. Purpose of the thing is understand what is the component of science involved in that particular practices. Understand how that things from generation to generations going on, and how it helps in sustaining a particular issues or sustaining something at the local level of that community. That is the major target for the studies in this context. And there are systematic approach, means there are lots of steps needs to be followed in traditional knowledge system. Whatever you are doing a study on the technical knowledge, ecological knowledge, or value and ethics, in every cases there are systematic steps to follow. I think after these discussions, a set of information set will be shared from the State Academic Committee, where you will get those informations. And in any cases, if you have any confusion, please communicate us. But the very important thing is that in other cases of study and experimentation, usually a hypothesis is framed for before the experimentations. But here, basically, it is the problem tree or the prospect tree is framed based on the process documentation. And based on that, actually, the participatory experimental work start. Same work done by the community researcher will involve in the work and do himself or herself with the community and try to find out the required information, whether really the visualized problems are there or not, or whether really there are prospect in the process, and that sort of things. So these are the very pertinent aspects, and this methodological framework you follow is very important of this CSC project in all the sub-team. Your topic may be very innovative, your objectives are defined very innovatively, but your methodology is weak to reach the and identify the outcome of that objective is the major failure in every cases, and particularly in traditional knowledge system cases. Another important thing, in traditional knowledge system, usually there are many works done on the health related issues. It may be animal health, it may be human health. But do not allow the children to do experiment on animal or health. There are standard law and standard procedures. Without maintaining that, it cannot be done anywhere. This is illegal. So basically, understanding the practices and the process is most important. Now, what are the, in these pandemic situations, what are the very possible way to study? What are the possible aspects to study by the children? One very important study on the cultural keystone spaces. Means a species which is very pertinent to a particular cultural context. It is used in different aspects. Say, for example, among the Karbi, Hantu, and Mahek, these are the two herbaceous species. And this is used in every occasion, in their death ceremony, birth ceremony, marriage, different festival, because this is mandatory, because Kirby belief systems indicate when human being come to this world, this is the two species, basically they have it as a food. Similarly, in different contexts, everywhere there are different ethnic groups, not only not only in Karbi Anglong, and in other districts also there are different ethnic communities. Even Borak Valley has a diverse community ethnic makeup. Like there are Manipuris, there are Chiro, there are Riang, there are Mars. Also, everywhere that there are different this kind of food practices. Now find out what are these foods. Usually this is not cultivated, this is collected from the wild areas. where it grows, what is the niche environment required for growing such species, whether the natural stock of the species is remain same to fulfill the demand, or there is a need of more in situ conservation and ex situ conservations or domestications. Some standardization approach for the domestications. All these are the part of it. Even the food systems, even the traditional food systems can be studied in the local context. In the household itself, what are the traditional foods, how it is connected to biodiversity in and around, or agriculture, then how what is the how did this particular recipe is prepared, what are the cooking styles, cooking medium, and how it is served, is there any step follows in consumptions of that particular food, because in many cases it is there. So that can be one area. Even some of the food product can be identified. The cow soul in Assamese it is called Konidhan.
Yes, yes.
Dhuburi and South Salmara district is a hub of that production, even in part of Gwalpara and Borpeta. So where it grows, basically in the riverine soil areas. So how it is cultivated? What is the stock available now? Because it is one of the rarest variety of rice we have in Northeast India. Similarly, in the June, there are lots of varieties of rices. How it what is its status and what are the varieties, and every variety has a special use. And why that? What is the reason behind that decisions? All this can be a part of the study. And Vibhuti talking about the irrigations in Karbi Anglong, the Western Karbi Anglong has a unique Karbi irrigation system called Longsor. But in the rest of the eastern part of the Karbi Anglong, there the Karbi people use the Kur irrigation. So both are the different form of irrigation. It is linked to the topographical conditions and microclimatic conditions of the area. So it is a very important aspects to study. Similarly, in Assam, there are two pockets where traditional boat making is still continue. One in Majuli, another in nearby Sunbil Fakua village. The traditional boat making, it can be studies from the traditional knowledge. One can go forward from the perspective of modeling principles also, how it is designed and what are the principles used, and based on that the different modeling can be done. At the same time, it can be documented from the traditional knowledge. Then the Barak Valley and the different pockets of Dhubri and other districts also has a practice of the party making from the party spaces. And Karimganj has a huge traditions. So what is the different kind of technology used for the purpose and how it is linked to that? And there is an example in Gwalpara district. There is a cluster of villages near to Mornoi, Dubapara, Patiapara, etc., where they cultivate, do this party making things. At the same time, they conserve party dough along the bank of the river, which help in reducing the bank erosion. So these are the pertinent interlinks of the traditional practices, how it is linked to the geographical condition and give the ecological security also in certain cases. So that need to be identified. Then the districts like Hosai, the others, the Hosai, Doboka, these areas, if you go, you will find there are lots of homestead small amount of pond. The area is under rain shadow areas, but this traditional homestead pond basically a one form of water harvesting to getting the water security, and some kind of studies on that can be possible aspects to incorporate. And similarly, Lumding and adjacent areas, lots of forest areas are there, and they have different practices of the collecting wild edibles and use for different purpose, particularly the different ethnic communities. So that can be one areas where one can do studies. And one important is the practices of drying fish. There are different form of drying fish, and there are different process and the traditional technology used for the purpose. Basically, some parties, one is the drying fish and another is the fermented fish. These are the two different traditions available in all over Northeast and very prominent in such districts. So study on that is another important areas, because nowadays the fermented food is getting a new priority because of the different kind of health benefit out of it. So that can be another areas one can concentrate. And regarding the vernacular architecture, what Vibhuti is talking about, all this curvy architectural design it can be one beautiful study. Similarly, in the Borak Valley part, also there are different community. They have different kind of architectural design. That can be one kind of studies. And another important thing is that villages which are nearby uh, forest, uh, where there is a threat of wildlife, their whole space arrangements of the homestead area with housing and the other things are different than the villages where there is no threat of wildlife. The villages which are prone to flood, their arrangement is something different than the people living in the flood free areas. So these are some of the dimension where a student can, staying in their village, staying in their neighborhood, they can carry out different kind of studies. So
Yes.
I would like to request all the respected participants kindly concentrate on such areas and do some studies. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharma sir. You just you enlighten us with various issues on which one can formulate a project, and that is also across different geographical locations, from cultural keystone species to boat making to house design to that coexless, that conidhan, what is not done, irrigation system, everything. And I thank Bibhuti also, Bibhuti Ranjan Bhattacharya also. He has also thrown a lot of issues. He raised a lot of issues where we can do studies on this traditional knowledge system. It's a very, and moreover, we can interlink traditional knowledge system with other sub themes also. So it's a very illuminating presentation by both of you. Thank you once again. May I request all the participants to kindly uh, ask any question of your doubt. If you have any doubts to clear, our resource persons are here with us. So please don't hesitate. You can interact with the resource person.
আপোনালোকে ৰিচোৰ্চ পাৰ্চনসকলক সোধাৰ লগতে আপোনালোকৰ মনতো নতুন প্ৰজেক্টৰ কথা যোৱাকালি মই কৈছিলোঁ যে
হয় হয়।
আপোনালোকে প্ৰজেক্টৰ চিন্তা কৰিব, সেইখিনি কথাও আপোনালোকে শ্বেয়াৰ কৰিব পাৰিব।
Evening and namaskar to all.
Yes, namaskar.
I audible, sir?
Yes, yes, please go. Bolen.
First of all, I want to express my wholehearted gratitude and sincere thanks to all concerned, particularly all reverend persons. The 2 days webinar was very much worthy and informative, and I must say that I got very much enriched and enlightened by this 2 days session. One thing is that present this due to severity of the COVID situation, though no offline Congress, Science Congress will be there, so it will be online. It's a very challenging task for all the stakeholders, particularly so far I am concerned and my students also. Then, but I am very much optimistic about the success of this year's national. By the today's session, so far I came to know some models about some models. Actually, for the some models will be very much enthusiastic for the students of my community. Although there is a shortage of infrastructure and so many problems are there, but I think some model will be implemented, and the purpose of the National Science Congress will be fulfilled. So, my earnest request to all the reverend speakers to share the PPTs and other information so that this will be easily available to all of us, and we can get reach to this information easily. So that's all. I am once again I am very much optimistic. So we shall try our level best to implement all these models or some of the models which are beneficial for the society.
Thank you, Mr. Gautam Dev. Just I want to know, can you understand modeling and model making? These are the two different things. I hear what we are talking about the modeling, but in Children's Science Congress, we did not encourage to the thermocol based or the some other material based modeling. People will come, this is the model of irrigation. People will come with a model to interpret how the rainwater harvesting can be done. That sort of things is basically discouraged. Here, basically, based on the method of science, you do certain studies. Even in modeling, probably you can realize there are principles of mathematics and other principles of other science which is followed, and based on that, one model is created to predict something, to know something which is not visible otherwise. For that purpose, this model is used. But modeling is a different approach, and model making is a different approach. Model making basically talk about the hardware things, and which is not a functional model. Basically, a static model. Static models are not encouraged in Children's Science Congress. Please remember that.
Yes, yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks once again. Yes.
Anyone? Any
Hello,
participant?
sir. Hello,
Yes,
sir.
yes. Please carry on. Yes, yes,
Mohammed
listening
Iqbal.
to you.
Yeah, I'm from South Salman Manakacha district, and our place is mostly here. We have available fishes here. Lots of fishes are available here, but we are adjacent to Meghalaya, the state of Meghalaya, and a place called Rajabla here nearby our place. Here the fishes are very tasty, and the fishes we have in our place is not that tasty. So what I think is that if we can analyze the water of that place and this place, like on some parameters like pH and all, or whatever else we can do, and can this be a project?
So what is the distance between these two places?
It is around
Meghalaya and your place.
So
7
another
or 8.
is in Meghalaya. So better to not take another areas which is not situated in our state.
Yeah, sir, even though it is a different state, but it's very much reachable from here. Anytime we can go over there.
Even though you
How
can
many
make it
kilometers?
very difficult. But what is the
7
physical
kilometers.
distance
7 kilometers.
between the two places?
Distance between the two places 7 kilometers.
Kitna?
7.
How much?
7.
11.
No. 7.
3 kilometers.
7 kilometers. Okay.
7 kilometers.
But on principle, it cannot be acceptable because in Children's Science Congress, it is always encouraged to do a study in the neighborhood, and in the process always evaluated whether within the same district, within the same block. Obviously, there is no question of state. From that perspective, even though the work is very good, even it is considered at the state level, sent to the national level, it may be rejected.
Okay.
It's a technical problem, basically.
Okay.
Okay. So student may go for the inventory also. Student may go for the inventory of the local areas. How many species are there? What are the types of fish? That type of they do there. You tell me that your fish resource is more in your area. What type of fish resource? What are the utility? How many productions are there? That will be made good projects. Not good for the Meghalaya and others.
I think the study on the fish diversity can be one of the beautiful projects.
Yes.
Another is the traditional tools and gears used for the fishing can be another important areas from the traditional knowledge perspective.
And efficacy of the gears.
Yes.
Now, how many gears are used? What type of gears? What are the efficacy?
And third aspect is where along the Brahmaputra, wherever the fishing is there on the river, people used to go for the fishing in group, in boat, for several days. Say, for example, they go for a 10 days or 1 week or 15 days trip for fishing and then come back. In the process, they face lots of difficulties. So, study on those aspects and based on that, identify some appropriate for them. Maybe from the perspective of social innovation, maybe from the appropriate technology. One of the problem, because I had an experience to do similar thing in the Biswanath Ghat of Biswanath Sarili district present. So one of the problem is they don't bother about the weather predictions. So as a result of it, they face lots of weather-related calamities and accidents happen. Nowadays, the online these weather predictions are available in every hours. There are different apps are there. So somewhere that information collected at one point and this is disseminated to different fishermen as a form of warning through mobile phone can be one kind of technical solutions without going to a larger complexity. This is just an idea comes to my mind. One can experiment in such line.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Any participant would like to interact with our resource person? If no one is interested, then we may go to straight with Dr. Professor Manjit Bhattacharya sir to kindly sum up the today's technical session, just to take out the gist of this all the sessions delivered by the resource persons.
Okay, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. Bujor Burwa. So we had a nice introductory talk today from Dr. Moithali Hazarika, because we all are not in a very good position, not only our children, but also all of us, due to this COVID-19 um, problems. So she addresses the lost childhood of our children, in present time, and she had given us a lot of ideas, how to deal with all this. আমাৰ লৰালিৰ সময়বিলাক ল'ৰা ছোৱালীবিলাকে কিদৰে নোহোৱা হৈ আছে তেখেতে খুব মানে ধুনীয়াকৈ আমাক বুজাইছে, and she asks us to look at to our children for this type of factors like depression, anxiety, and stress. And if all this continues for 2 weeks, then she said that we have to take that part very seriously for our children. Then she talked about some ideas how to deal with all these problems. She talked about teacher-student relationship mainly, that teachers should not be biased to their students, and as a teacher we must always use student-centric language, and we must share some personal stories with our students to encourage them. I think all these criteria are applicable to encourage children scientists to come up with some projects in NCSC. Then she also asked us to remember that students can have different types of behavior. Their intelligence may vary. Some are very confident and some are underconfident. So how to deal with them, and that can be a very difficult kind of task. Then she asks all of us to go for meditation, then habit of writing for children, especially storytelling and painting, to cope up with this particular situation. And she gave us two take home kind of message. Number one was we should always think of the me time. We must give time to ourselves and work collaboratively with social responsibility at this present time. Then she also asks us to download one app. I have noted down this for me actually. Mindfulness meditation is an app, where we should go through that and give at least 15 minutes me time for all of us. Then we had discussion on two sub-themes of Children Science Congress today. The first one was on design, development, planning, and modeling. Professor Bhim Prasad Sharma was giving a nice idea of how we can go for modeling a relationship in our own house between disaster and hazard and vulnerability. He asks us to calculate, to see some factors which can contribute to hazard and vulnerability, and also asks us to think of that vulnerability values. How we can give mark to these different factors, 1, 2, 3, 4. How we can value all these, and ultimately we can design a model. That was a nice idea coming up. And Dr. Surajit Borkotuki also has given us two nice ideas. One was on consumption pattern of electricity. He has given a nice mathematical modeling on that. That how can we think of peak hours of electricity use in a particular area or in a village. Then he also given us one mathematical model for optimizing profit, for a particular cultivation. Then Dr. Bipul Sharma, Tezpur University, has given us two nice ideas. One was on nesting birds. I think that was a very nice kind of idea, and he explained the methodology part, which, as Jayanta Sharma sir has said, that methodology part, one of the most important parts in all the projects, and we should think on that while framing a particular project. And Dr. Sharma also has given another idea of collectivism, how we can think of framing time of use of water to prevent water crisis. It is somewhat related to Dr. Surajit Borkotoki's idea of electricity. And then traditional knowledge system, Dr. Vibhuti Ranjan Bhattacharya has given nice ideas. What is that traditional knowledge? That is very important. We must understand that our children scientists must understand that why should we study that traditional knowledge, and how we should think on different aspects of traditional knowledge. And he has given us a lot of ideas. I should mention one or two. He has given one idea on variation of architecture in houses, considering local need, flood situation, or family size, skill of people. So all these factors, can differentiate, the construction of houses. So he asks us to think on the engineering pattern of houses depending on the areas. He has given a nice methodology on this, so our children scientists can follow that. He has given a lot of ideas on other aspects like seed storage, then crop rotation method, then forest goods, traditional hydraulics, etc. So all of us, we can go through the video which will be available on YouTube. And finally, Jayanta Sharma sir has given us, some nice thinking, on traditional knowledge. Why, how we should go with this particular idea. He said that it's a multidisciplinary kind of approach. All scientific ideas can be applied to study traditional knowledge, and he asks us to think about that ethical concern, because that is very important. Community-wise, the ideas vary, so these ideas should be within a particular community. So that ethical concern is very important. He asks all the scientists to think about the component of science involved in traditional knowledge, and that is what NCSC look for. Then finally, our coordinator, Dr. Bujabura, has already explained about his ideas, on different places of Assam. So we can think of nice projects under this particular sub-theme, as Dr. Jayanta Sharma sir has explained, starting from that Konidhan, to different villages near forest and villages near flooding areas. So I request all of you to go through the session, today's session, and note down all the ideas that we have. Thank you, Dr. Bujapura.
Thank you. Thank you.
মই পাৰ্টিচিপেণ্টছ সকলক কৈছোঁ যে আপোনালোকক ইতিমধ্যে যোৱাকালি আৰু আজি আমাৰ ৰিচোৰ্চ পাৰ্চন সকলে যথেষ্টখিনি প্ৰজেক্টৰ আইডিয়া দিলে, কি ধৰণৰে কৰিব লাগিব ইত্যাদিৰ কথাও আপোনালোকৰ লগত আলোচনা কৰিলে। আপোনালোকে এই আলোচনাখিনি ইউটিউবত পুনৰ চাই ল'ব পাৰিব, আৰু কিবা অসুবিধা হ'লে আমাৰ ইঞ্জিনিয়াৰ আৰু এছিষ্টেণ্ট ষ্টেট কোঅৰ্ডিনেটৰ সন্দীপ ভট্টাচাৰ্যৰ লগত আপোনালোকে যোগাযোগ কৰিব সেই বিষয়ত, মানে ইউটিউবত যিখিনি নেকি প্ৰজেক্ট আছে সেইলৈ। কাৰণ আপোনালোকে আকৌ আপোনালোকৰ জিলাত যি গাইড টিচাৰ্ছ ট্ৰেইনিং হ'ব, সেই ট্ৰেইনিঙত এই কথাখিনি আৰু লগতে আপোনালোকে নতুন সংযোজন দি গাইড টিচাৰখিনিৰ লগত আলোচনা কৰিব লাগিব যে এই পৰিৱেশত ল'ৰা ছোৱালীবিলাকে কি ধৰণৰে বা শিশু বিজ্ঞানীসকলে কি ধৰণৰে প্ৰজেক্ট কৰিবলৈ আগবাঢ়িব। গতিকে আপোনালোকে এইটো কথা মন কৰি ৰাখিব যে আপোনালোকে এই যে ইয়াত অংশগ্ৰহণ কৰিলে এই দুদিন, এইটো কৰিছে আপোনালোকৰ ডিষ্ট্ৰিক্টৰ গাইডসকলক ট্ৰেইন আপ কৰিবৰ কাৰণেহে। মই চেয়াৰমেন হিচাপে এইখিনিতে আমাৰ সকলো ৰিচোৰ্চ পাৰ্চন, জয়ন্ত শৰ্মাকে আদি কৰি সকলো ৰিচোৰ্চ পাৰ্চনক ধন্যবাদ জ্ঞাপন কৰিলোঁ। লগতে আমাৰ একাডেমিক কমিটিৰ সদস্যসকল তেখেতসকলেও থাকি আমাৰ এই ট্ৰেইনিং পৰ্ব সুচাৰুৰূপে পৰিচালনা কৰা হ'ল। আজি ৮ম দিন, গতিকে মই সকলোলৈকে ধন্যবাদ জনাইছোঁ। স্পেচিয়েল থেংকছ টু প্ৰণৱ বুজৰ বৰুৱা, মঞ্জিত ভট্টাচাৰ্যী and Sushil Sharma sir. Thank you. Pranab.
Thank you, sir. We have amongst us Dr. Joydeep Burua, sir, working President State Organizing Committee. So may I request Burua, sir, to kindly address the gathering, just to give a concluding remark.
Thank you, Dr. Burua. Chairman, Academic Committee, Professor Vipul Kumar Boradangoria. প্ৰণৱ বুজৰ বৰুৱা, মঞ্জিত ভট্টাচাৰ্যী, জয়ন্ত কুমাৰ শৰ্মা প্ৰমুখ্যে সকলোকে ধন্যবাদ জনাইছোঁ। লগতে আজি অংশগ্ৰহণ কৰা, আজি যোৱাৰ কালি আৰু আজি অংশগ্ৰহণ কৰা সকলো অংশগ্ৰহণকাৰীকে ধন্যবাদ জনাইছোঁ। আমাৰ এই 4টা জোনেল আমাৰ যিটো প্ৰশিক্ষণ ট্ৰেইনিং সফলতাৰে হৈ যোৱা বুলি ভাবিব লাগিব, কাৰণ আমি এটা প্ৰত্যাহ্বানমূলক পৰিস্থিতিত এই গোটেই কাৰ্যসূচী আয়োজন কৰিব লগা হৈছে। গতিকে এই সুযোগতে মই এই কাৰ্যসূচীত আমাক সকলো ধৰণে সহায় কৰা আটাইকেইগৰাকী সমল ব্যক্তি, সকলোৰে নামবিলাক হয়তো মই ল'ব নোৱাৰিম, তথাপি ডক্টৰ ভীম প্ৰসাদ শৰ্মা, বিভূতি ৰঞ্জন ভট্টাচাৰ্য, ডক্টৰ বিপুল শৰ্মা, আমাৰ সকলোৰে আমি জানো ডক্টৰ শ্ৰী জয়ন্ত কুমাৰ শৰ্মা, নেশ্যনেল একাডেমিক কমিটি মেম্বাৰ, মঞ্জিত কুমাৰ ভট্টাচাৰ্য, ডক্টৰ মন্টু ভূঞা, ডক্টৰ সাধন মহাপাত্ৰ, শ্ৰুতিধাৰা মহন্ত, ডক্টৰ সুৰজিৎ বৰকটকী, আমাৰ যোৱা বছৰলৈকে আমাৰ শৈক্ষিক সমন্বয়ক থকা ডক্টৰ সুশীল কুমাৰ শৰ্মা, মানসী গোস্বামী, ডক্টৰ মৈথিলী হাজৰিকা, আৰু যদি মই কাৰোবাৰ নাম বাদ পৰিছে মই ক্ষমা কৰিব। মই মনত থকাৰ পৰা কৈ আছো আচলতে নামখিনি।
সঞ্জয় বসুমতাৰী, পংকজ গগৈ,
সঞ্জয় বসুমতাৰী,
সকলোকে
সকলোলৈকে আচলতে ধন্যবাদ জনাইছো। আৰু আমাৰ একাডেমিক কমিটিৰ সমূহ সদস্য, অধ্যক্ষ, তাৰ একাডেমিক কমিটিৰ অধ্যক্ষ, ৰিচোৰ্চ পাৰ্চন, সকলোকে ধন্যবাদ জনাইছো। এষ্টেকৰ সন্দীপ ভট্টাচাৰ্যী, সংঘমিত্ৰ সুপ্ৰিয়া, তেওঁলোকে গোটেই কাৰ্যসূচী পৰিচালনা কৰাত সহায় কৰিছে। আমাৰ ডাইৰেক্টৰ বাইদেউ ইমান ব্যস্ততাৰ মাজতো তেওঁ 3 দিন উপস্থিত থাকিলে, আজিও তেখেতে বহুতখিনি সময় উপস্থিত থাকিলে, গতিকে তেখেতকো আমি সকলোৰে ধন্যবাদ জনাইছো। গতিকে এই প্ৰত্যাহ্বানমূলক পৰিস্থিতিৰ মাজেদি আমি শিশু বিজ্ঞান সমাৰোহ আগবঢ়াই লৈ যাব লাগিব। যোৱাবাৰ আমি সফল হ'লো, যদিও ল'ৰা ছোৱালীখিনিক আমি ৰাষ্ট্ৰীয় পৰ্যায়লৈ নিব নোৱাৰিলো। আমি মঞ্জিত ভট্টাচাৰ্য আৰু আমি বেলেগ এটা ধৰণে তেওঁলোকক ইনচেণ্টিভ দিয়াৰ কথা চিন্তা কৰি আছো। খুব সোনকালে হয়তো আমি শৈক্ষিক সমিতিৰ লগত এই বিষয়ে আলোচনা কৰি এটা সিদ্ধান্ত ল'ম। সকলোলৈকে মই পুনৰ ধন্যবাদ জনাইছো এষ্টেকৰ ফালৰ পৰা, ৰাজ্যিক সাংগঠনিক সমিতিৰ তৰফৰ পৰা। আমাৰ ৰাজ্যিক সমন্বয়ক শ্ৰী ৰমন গগৈ মাজে মাজে উপস্থিত আছে, গতিকে তেখেতকো আমি ধন্যবাদ জনাইছো। সকলোকে ধন্যবাদ জনাই মোৰ ক'ব লগাখিনি সামৰিছো। ধন্যবাদ।
Thank you, sir. সদশেষত আমাৰ এষ্টেকৰ ডাইৰেক্টৰ মেম কিমি সিংচং বাইদেউ, জয়দীপ বৰুৱাদেৱ প্ৰমুখ্যে আদি কৰি আমাৰ আটাইকেইজন ষ্টেট একাডেমিক কমিটিৰ সদস্য, বিপুল বৰা ছাৰ, মঞ্জিত ভট্টাচাৰ্যদেৱ, সুশীল কুমাৰ শৰ্মা ছাৰ, তাৰপিছত আমাৰ ষ্টেট অৰ্গেনাইজিং কমিটিৰ চেয়াৰমেন ৰমেন গগৈ ডাঙৰীয়া, আটাইকে ধন্যবাদ জনালোঁ। বিশেষকৈ আমাৰ সন্দীপ ভট্টাচাৰ্যদেৱকো ধন্যবাদ জনালোঁ, গোটেই টেকনিকেল কথাখিনি তেখেতে গোটেই কোঅৰ্ডিনেট কৰি থকাৰ কাৰণে। লগতে এষ্টেকৰ সংঘমিত্ৰা আৰু সুপ্ৰিয়াকো আমি ধন্যবাদ জনালোঁ। আমি আটাইকেইজন ৰিচোৰ্চ পাৰ্চনৰ প্ৰতি কৃতজ্ঞ হৈ ৰম। তেখেতসকলৰ ইমান ভেলুৱেবল সময় আমাক দিলে আজি 8 দিন ধৰি, আৰু প্ৰত্যেক দিনাই আমি 3 ঘণ্টাৰ ওপৰলৈ গৈছো মিটিঙত। গতিকে এই আটাই হয়, প্ৰত্যেক দিনা প্ৰথম দিনাৰ পৰাই আমি 3 ঘণ্টাৰ ওপৰলৈ মিটিং কৰিছো। গতিকে ইমান এটা ভেলুৱেবল সময় তেওঁলোকে আমাক দিছে, আৰু তেওঁলোকে ইমান কষ্ট কৰি প্ৰত্যেকেই প্ৰেজেণ্টেশ্যনবিলাক আনিছে, আৰু আমাৰ হয় আমি এটা সেশনত হয়তো সাব থিমত ৰিসোর্স পার্সন আমাৰ অসংখ্য আছে সেই হিচাপে কিন্তু আমাৰ আইডিয়াও যথেষ্টখিনি আহিছে গতিকে এই কথাটো এটা খুব আমাৰ বাবে শুভ লক্ষণ এটা গতিকে সবৰে বিভিন্ন ফিল্ডত এক্সপাৰ্টাইজখিনি আছে আৰু আটাই নিজৰ নিজৰ এক্সপাৰ্টাইজখিনি ব্যৱহাৰ কৰি তেওঁলোকৰ নিজৰ মনৰ কিছুমান সৃষ্টিশীলতাক ষ্টুডেণ্টবিলাকলৈ আগবঢ়াই দিছে গতিকে সেই কথাখিনি যাতে আমি ভৱিষ্যতলৈ বিলাই দিব পাৰো সমাজত এই আশা ৰাখিলো গতিকে আটাইকে ধন্যবাদ দি পেলাই আমাৰ আজিৰ এই অনুষ্ঠান সামৰণি মাৰিলো ভৱিষ্যতেও আমি হয়তো এনেকে লগ পাম আৰু যদি দিন ভাল হয় হয়তো আমি ফিজিক্যালি এনেকে লগ পোৱাৰ সুযোগ আহিব গতিকে মই আটাইকে ধন্যবাদ জনালো আৰু আটাইকে all the participants are also very sincere and they present throughout the entire duration so I thank all of them thank you very much good night
ৰিসোর্স পার্সন স্যার সকল আপোনালোকে মাজে মাজে আমাক সহায় কৰি থাকিব লাগিব ভৱিষ্যত ষ্টেজতো কাৰণ কিবা ধৰণৰে আমাক যদি কোনোবা ডিস্ট্ৰিক্টৰ পৰা গাইডে কিবা সোধে বা ষ্টুডেণ্টে কিবা সোধে আমি আপোনালোকৰ কন্টেক্ট নাম্বাৰটো দিম আপোনালোকৰ ফিল্ডৰ হলে গতিকে আপোনালোকে তেখেতসকলক পৰামৰ্শ দি সেই ক্ষেত্ৰতো সহায় কৰিব ধন্যবাদ সকলোকে
ধন্যবাদ
ধন্যবাদ
ধন্যবাদ শুভৰাত্ৰি
Thank you.